Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has Sharingan Rinnegan and Eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by adamxero, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. The Valley of the End was known to have hosted extraordinary battles such as Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, and most recently one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze and Sasuke Uchiha. The rain was continuously falling, soaking anything it touched in seconds. The roar of thunder could be heard, masking the sounds of everything. But in the middle of all this, a certain blonde-haired shinobi stood perfectly still, with his eyes closed and his head raised, so he was looking up. Below him was the grave of his best friend Sasuke Uchiha. They had battled, one for revenge, the other for peace. Naruto was holding the fist-shaped hole in his shoulder, that beginning to slowly heal thanks to the Kyuubi. At the age of 17, Naruto had seen and felt a lot, but killing his best friend brother was one feeling he knew would scar him for life. While the rain was falling, Naruto could not help but remember the time Sasuke and himself were together. Flashback. I used to hate you, said Sasuke before he fell limp in Naruto's hands due to the attack from Haku. Flashback off. Tears were forming in Naruto's eyes, threatening to spill at any moment as the memories of Sasuke kept flowing. Flashback. I want to fight you as well, Naruto. An injured Sasuke said to Naruto as the third part of the Chunin exams were about to begin. Flashback off. Even though those words would mean nothing or insulting to most, Naruto's hard life due to the Kyuubi being sealed inside him made him strive for one thing: acknowledgement, and when Sasuke had told him this, he felt acknowledged by one of his first bonds. Tears were flowing freely down Naruto's face as he tightened his grip round the forehead protector that once belonged to Sasuke, while his thumb swiped across the engraved line that he made 4 years ago in their last battle. His mind brought him back to the last minutes that Sasuke was alive. Flashback. Blood was pouring out of Naruto's shoulder, while Sasuke had cuts all over his body. They were both breathing heavily, both were missing the top half of their clothing, while the rain was crashing down on them. Sasuke was standing on the statue of Uchiha Madara, closing his eyes for a second before he started slowly opening them again to reveal an 8-pointed star Tsukiyomi. Naruto was standing on top of Hashirama Senju's statue, looking across to the figure that was standing on top of the statue of the one person who Naruto wanted to kill more than anyone. He was the reason why he had no parents, why this war was going on anyway. It was all him. Madara, I'm coming for you, whispered Naruto, not realizing that Sasuke had opened his eyes to reveal the Mangekyou Sharingan. Naruto looked up in the sky as it slowly started to turn red, and a giant crucifix emerged from the ground, and before he knew it, Naruto was tied to the cross. Seriously, Naruto, I thought you would have seen this technique enough times to avoid it. Maybe I was wrong in thinking you weren't an idiot anymore, and now you will spend 72 hours in this world, Sasuke said while lifting up his katana. However, Naruto did not lift his head up and let his golden bangs hang over his eyes, waiting for his impending doom. Sasuke raised his katana and thrusted it forward with all the intention of killing his strongest bond. No, however, Sasuke seemed to not hear what Naruto said as his katana still went towards the blonde's chest. I said no, Naruto screamed, lifting his head, sending his golden locks out of the way of his eyes, causing Sasuke to gasp in shock over the sight of Naruto's eyes. Once the calm sapphire-colored eyes replaced by blood-red eyes with 2 black tomos around the center pupil. The Sharingan, how Sasuke stuttered. He said, a familiar sounding voice, causing Sasuke to turn a whole 180 degrees turn to look at the source in which the voice came from, and once finding the body to which the voice came from, he gasped as he saw a crow flying towards him and slowly transforming into a human figure, first the legs, then the torso, and finally the head, causing Sasuke's eyes to widen the size of dinner plates. I'm sorry, little brother, but I cannot let you kill Naruto-kun. He is the only one who can defeat Madara. I have given Naruto-kun the power of the Sharingan, however it amazes me how he has unlocked 2 tomos straight away. Now little brother, I'm sorry, but I'm going to take away your Mangekyou Sharingan. Itachi calmly said, to which Sasuke just looked up and smiled before nodding his head. I finally understand now, Nyasin, why you killed everyone and why you wanted me to help protect Konoha. You knew it was Madara who attacked the village with the Kyuubi 17 years ago, didn't you? It was his fault the Uchiha clan was massacred, Sasuke said, as if he was lifting 17 years of weight of his shoulder. Yes, I knew, and you are right, it was Madara's fault for the massacre. If he never attacked the village, the clan would not have tried a coup. Now you know. What do you plan to do, little brother? Itachi asked. Sasuke still held his smirk on his face, as if nothing in the world mattered at this moment. Nothing I intend to do, nothing. I have been saved, Nyasin, from my path of vengeance by my own little brother, and like you, I also believe in my little brother, replied Sasuke, still holding the smirk on his face before turning around and releasing Naruto from the cross. Itachi looked at his little brother before smirking himself. I agree Sasuke, I don't think you could have found a better little brother. I have to go now, my chakra is fading and Naruto-kun should wake up in a couple of seconds. I know what you're planning on doing little brother and if everything goes your way I'll be seeing you real soon, said Itachi as he slowly started to fade away. Sasuke's smirk dropped as Itachi left and looked down at his little brother who was now starting to wake up. Yeah, I'll be seeing you real soon, nice, and Sasuke sighed as his mangekyou faded, taking them out of the world of Tsukiyomi. On the outside both warriors were stood up just staring at each other while the rain smacked of their bodies. As soon as Tsukiyomi ended both warriors fell onto one knee gasping in pain. One was holding his head from the strain Tsukiyomi caused while the other was holding his eye from the strain of holding up the technique and having his mangekyou taken away from him. As soon as both fighters were able to cope with the pain they slowly but steadily, both warriors got up back on 2 feet, not letting the rain affect them, both fighters staring into each other's blood-red eyes waiting for the other to attack. I see, so you truly have required the sharingan, little brother, said Sasuke smirking at Naruto's reaction of being called little brother. Naruto's eyes narrowed after the shock of being called little brother. Then we should stop fighting and work together to defeat, said Naruto before being interrupted by the sound of Sasuke's laughter. No, little brother, I would like to help you, however as your big brother you must know one thing, it's alright if you hate me, even if I become an obstacle that you must get past, always know this, I love you like a little brother and I'll always be there for you, Sasuke said with a genuine smile, as well as laughing inside at irony of the whole situation. Naruto's sharingan-eyed eyes were as wide as dinner plates as tears were forming from the words of his big brother. Why, Sasuke, I don't want to fight you, I don't want to kill you, I don't want you to die. Naruto screamed, tears pouring out rolling down his cheeks. Old death is certain, besides there is no one else who I'd rather be killed by than my own little brother, Sasuke stated, stunning Naruto. But we don't, Naruto started before Sasuke interrupted him. Naruto, if you can't beat me then Madara will kill you. Now let's end this with one last attack, okay, Sasuke said while going through hand seals, causing his hand to start glowing. Naruto watched as Sasuke started forming his Chidori and held out his hand as familiar blue orbs started to form while pumping wind chakra, creating Naruto's prize technique. Both fighters stayed still waiting for each other to attack. A lone rock crumbled off Uchiha Madara's statue and splashed into the water to signal the final attack. Sasuke used a chakra-enhanced jump, cracking the top of Uchiha Madara, meeting Naruto in the air, thrusting his Chidori forward to meet Naruto's Futen Rasen Shuriken. The impact caused a giant black dome of energy, destroying the top half of the statues. Naruto's Rasen Shuriken smashed past Sasuke's Chidori, hitting him clean into the chest. However, there was no scream. Sasuke just smiled as the dome faded. Naruto limped over to the body that was lying on the floor, not moving. As he got to the figure he fell to his knees. Why, Sasuke, why? Naruto whispered while tears rolling down his cheeks as his sharingan deactivated, showing his now sapphire orbs. Because too must break the Sisile of vengeance. I've been so blinded by my hatred. Go kick Mad Madara's ass, dope. Goodbye, little brother, Sasuke whispered before his heart stopped and his eyes slowly closed while his smile never faltering. Naruto golden locks hung over his eyes as his tears were coming down faster than before. He looked into the skies and screamed, his sharingan spinning out of control, slowly transforming. Flashback end. Naruto stood still looking up at the sky as the rain smacked of his face. He began to slowly open his eyes, revealing a black spiral. Okay people, this is the best way I can describe it at the moment. Just picture the Uzumaki symbol in his eyes. He slowly crouched down to the stone that was located at the top of the grave and placed Sasuke's forehead protector in front of the stone. I promise Sasuke, I won't fight for revenge, I will fight for peace, Naruto prayed before standing up. Chapter 2. Sad, angry, tired and weak, these were all the feelings that Naruto felt as he walked through the overgrown forest of the Fire Country, each step as painful as the last. While the injury in his shoulder had stopped bleeding, it was still noticeable and very painful. He was hoping that Sakura or Tsunade would be able to heal it. Sakura, Naruto thought, even though Naruto's crush for Sakura had vanished, he still valued her as one of his precious people. He also knew how much Sakura still cared for Sasuke and how much it would break her heart when she found out he was dead. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts when a drop of water landed on his shoulder, causing Naruto to grip his shoulder in pain and struggle to keep himself from collapsing due to the severe chakra exhaustion he was feeling. The rain had not given up since the start of the battle, however, the tops of the trees seemed to give Naruto some protection. While on his way to Konoha, Naruto found many of the small villages destroyed. Every time he saw death he would remember those who died protecting him. He remembered Lee. He had opened all 8 gates in a battle with Madara, but easily beaten. Lee was not the only one who fell. Kakashi and Guy fought off 20,000 Zetsu clones and a dozen enemies resurrected by Ito Tensei foes such as Kakuza, Konan and Yahiko before collapsing. Most of the Rookie 9 and Team Guy were either injured or dead. As Naruto kept on walking through the forest, his legs gave out on him, sending him crashing to his knees, struggling to keep conscious. His exhaustion was put aside as he heard a voice inside his head which he did not recognize. Destroy everything, gain power and rule everything, the unknown voice said. The voice was not dynamic, so he knew it wasn't the Kyuubi, but the killing intent that came from the voice sent chills up Naruto's back. Not wanting to find out what could cause that much killer intent, Naruto slowly and painfully stood up, panting heavily. Taking a heavy breath and snapping out his trance, he continued to walk towards Konoha, noting to himself to ask the Kyuubi what that voice was later. Even though Naruto was getting closer and closer towards Konoha, he could tell something was not right. When he was close enough to smell the village, it was then he knew his suspicions were right. He could smell smoke, blood and death. His eyes widened as the village came into sight from behind the trees. The village was destroyed, buildings and houses were burning, the walls destroyed, the once powerful village now laid in ruins. Naruto did the only thing he could do, run towards the village and help any survivors if there was any that was. Reaching the entrance, he noticed two prone figures not moving here and towards them, placing his fingers on their necks to try feel a pulse. After confirming both of them were dead, he was suddenly forced to turn his head towards the Hokage tower as the roof exploded off. "Oh Kami, please don't die, Bachan," whispered Naruto as he ran towards the building, dodging falling pieces rubble. As Naruto made his way to the bottom of the Hokage tower, he looked towards ground next to the building, his breathing getting deeper as he saw pink hair. It was Sakura laying on her side, not moving, blood flowing out of her body from multiple deep cuts. His eyes widened when he looked up at the people who killed his closest friend there, standing with their arms crossed, were the two people who had both taught Naruto the way of the ninja, Jiraiya and Kakashi. Hiro Sennin and Kakashi sensei. Ho-ho, Naruto stuttered, still not believing what he was seeing. "It's been far too long, Gaki, I'm sorry," Jiraiya said, looking down in shame. "Yo," Kakashi said with a single eye, smiling while his Sharingan eye glaring at Naruto. "Naruto, you need to stop us and go help Tsunade-sama. She's fighting Madara." Naruto's eyes went wide as he knew Tsunade wouldn't be able to hold Madara off for long. Naruto nodded his head, closing his eyes and opening them again a second later to reveal his mangekyou Sharingan, shocking both Jiraiya and Kakashi. "I'm guessing the only way to stop this, Ito-tensei, is either sealing you off or your soul finding peace," Naruto stated as his theory was proven right by the nods of Jiraiya and Kakashi. Naruto put his fingers into a cross shape before shouting, "Page Bunshin no Jutsu." Suddenly two more Narutos poofed into existence. Naruto did some hand signs and tapped his wrist where he had a unique looking tattoo. Suddenly two trench knives were suddenly gripped in his hand, both showing a seals located on the handle. The knives were surrounded by wind chakra, adding a protective layers on the knives. Naruto rushed forward with his two koans backing him up, holding a Rasengan in both palms. Jiraiya and Kakashi suddenly felt their body move into a fighting stance. Jiraiya started going through hand signs, as did Kakashi. "Heian. Kakakyu no Jutsu, fire release." "Great fireball technique," Kakashi shouted as a giant fireball came out of his mouth heading towards Naruto. "Gyuden. Tatapa, wind release." "Great breakthrough," Jiraiya shouted, sending a giant gust of wind powering up and speeding up the fireball that was coming towards Naruto. Naruto looked a combination between his two senseis and was surprised by the size of the fireball. Not that he thought Jiraiya and Kakashi were weak, it was just he had never seen them use an attack to this scale before. Naruto did the only thing he could think of to get away from the giant ball of fire. He threw his trench knife in the air and powered the other with wind chakra and shot it at the giant fireball, and on impact went straight through the ball of fire. "Duration no Jutsu, flying thunder god technique," Naruto whispered as he vanished in a yellow flash, just as the fireball exploded, blowing up some parts of the village by the magnitude of the attack. Naruto appeared in the air, catching the trench knife. As he caught the blade, he felt a pain in his neck. "Naruto, I've seen this attack enough times to see how it works," Jiraiya said sorrowfully. However, just as Naruto was about to fall, he suddenly changed into a cloud of smoke. His trench knife suddenly changed into a Naruto, forming a Rasengan in one hand, his Sharingan gazing at Jiraiya. The Toad Sage was sent halfway across the other side of the village as the Rasengan made contact with his stomach. Kakashi was watching wide-eyed and his body went down from a chop as Naruto appeared behind him. Kakashi got up and turned to see the blonde Jinchuriki smirking. My clever plan." Naruto hinging a clone into a trench knife and throwing it in the air and then throwing a wind-enhanced one through the fireball. "Then the real you attacked me when Jiraiya was out of the way. I must say I'm proud of you, Naruto. I would have thought that you would use the fireball as a distraction and run," explained Kakashi, surprise and pride evident in his voice. The demon container still held his smirk as he stood up straight and deactivated his mangekyou Sharingan, revealing his Tsutomu state. "The great ninja once told me once, in the ninja world, those who break the rules are trash." "That's true, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash, and I won't rest until I free your soul," Naruto said calmly. Kakashi stared at Naruto wide-eyed as he heard his student tell him the exact same thing Obito had said to him. He stared at Naruto for a couple of seconds and couldn't help but see his sensei Minato Namikaze. He smiled as his body started to crumble and a single tear came out of his non-Sharingan eye. "Thank you, Naruto, you have surpassed me, and it's good to know at least one of my students listens to what I say," Kakashi said as he crumbled away, leaving a dead Sunanin's body. Thank you for everything Kakashi-sensei, but I don't think I was the only one who followed your belief, Naruto thought as he looked to his right and saw Jiraiya throwing a giant piece of rubble off him and his body regenerating while rubbing his head. Why do I feel like Tsunade just punched me, Jiraiya remarked while slightly grinning. Naruto couldn't help but smile, seeing Jiraiya again made Naruto happy, but as quick as the smile appeared it disappeared and turned into a frown, slipping into a fighting stance Naruto activated his mangekyou sharingan again. I'd say you're lucky that it wasn't Bachan that hit you, Naruto joked causing Jiraiya to laugh. Yeah, I agree, Jiraiya said while losing control of his body once again and started sprinting towards Naruto at an impressive speed. Don't hold back, Naruto, you need to go help Tsunade. Don't worry, I won't hold back, Hiro-sen, Naruto replied while hearing Jiraiya mumble something about disrespectful brats. Naruto raises his trench knives and instantly they were surrounded by wind chakra waiting to cut into something. Jiraiya continued to run at Naruto. Naruto was about to lunge forward to meet Jiraiya, but stopped and dropped one of his blades due to the shoulder wound he received earlier with his battle with Sasuke. Jiraiya's body reacted to Naruto's lowered defense with a kick and sent him flying through a building. Jiraiya stood up straight as the rain stopped, but the clouds in the sky showed that the rain was not over yet. Naruto got up slowly lifting a piece of rubble of him, however this action caused his shoulder to explode in pain. Naruto lifted the single trench knife he had kept hold of and dashed towards Jiraiya, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Naruto slashed at Jiraiya's head with his wind-enhanced blade, only to hit air, as Jiraiya ducked and sent a low sweeping kick at Naruto, who simply jumped and went for a roundhouse kick while in the air. Jiraiya caught the kick, but the power in the kick sent him back a couple of meters. With his other foot Naruto connected his foot with Jiraiya's cheek, sending him flying back and hitting the ground hard. Breathing heavily Naruto saw Jiraiya stand up, unfazed, which caused Naruto to curse that bloody Ito Tensei technique. Jiraiya formed a Rasengan in his hand and rushed towards Naruto. Damn Gaki, that kick hurt, you have to seal me away in order to defeat me. Naruto started forming a Rasengan in his hand and met Jiraiya in what could only be described as the mother of all explosions, as a white dome surrounded the figures as they battled for dominance. As the dome started to fade, both characters went crashing into buildings opposite each other. A giant crater was left where both Rasengans met. Naruto laid in the pile of rubble struggling to move, but on the side Jiraiya was flung. He stood up just like before, not showing any sign of injury or exhaustion. Gaki, you can't beat me like that. Jiraiya shouted, pissed that his student had not listened to him on how to beat Ito Tensei. Easier said than done. Hiro-sen and Yuko. Naruto was cut off as Jiraiya was above him, powering up an even bigger Rasengan than before. Naruto's eyes widened as he knew he didn't have time to dodge the attack and waited for the attack. However, as the attack was getting closer and closer, Jiraiya gasped at sight of Naruto's mangekyou sharingan as it seemed to be doing something. Adama Rasengan. A giant explosion was what followed after the giant ball connected to where Naruto's face was and 50-meter high smoke cloud formed, leaving it impossible to see anything. Jiraiya was looking to where he last saw Naruto, saddened at the fact he had killed his apprentice, until a sudden giant red sword that looked like it was on fire launched through Jiraiya's body, surprisingly not leaving any cut marks. As the smoke started clearing, a giant figure was standing with a shield and a sword which was currently impaling Jiraiya. It was then that Jiraiya figured out what had saved Naruto from the attack, because there crouching at the bottom of the giant figure was Naruto holding his left eye and being protected. Susanoo, Jiraiya stated. Naruto was holding his eyes as they were releasing an extreme amount of pain. Slowly Naruto started to stand up and look around to see what saved him. He gasped when he saw the skeleton figure. It was the same one he had seen Sasuke use, but his was red and holding a weird looking shield and a flaming sword. And Naruto never saw Itachi Susanoo, so he doesn't know what it looks like. While Naruto was checking out his new technique, Jiraiya was looking at Naruto with wide eyes, wondering how the hell he had obtained the sharingan and most importantly the mangekyou sharingan. Suddenly Jiraiya felt his body being slowly dragged into the sword. He gasped once he realized what sword it was. The sword of Totsuka. The sword had been lost for over a decade, and now Naruto was in possession of the famous blade. You really are Konoha's most unpredictable ninja. I would ask where you got the sharingan and that sword, but that doesn't matter anymore. I want you to know that I'm honored that I was chosen to be your godfather and sensei. Goodbye Gaki, and go fulfill the prophecy and defeat Madara. Jiraiya started snickering just as he was about to get sucked in and get laid already, and with that the great toad sage was absorbed into the sword, trapped for eternity. Naruto let a small smile appear at his godfather's words, but quickly turned back into a frown when he remembered where he was. The clouds had hovered above Konoha again. The rain came down slow at first, and after a couple seconds the rain had began falling down with as much intensity as last time, making everything damp in seconds. Naruto suddenly felt the effects of battling both Kakashi and Jiraiya and fell to his knees panting heavily, while the rain washed all the dirt and blood of his body. Tears had began to form in his eyes as he remembered Jiraiya's last words. Thank you Hiro-sen for everything. Till them all, release your anger, I can feel it. Why do you fight? Give in to your dark side. You will become invincible, the voice inside Naruto said. Naruto was brought into his mind. He could see the Kyuubi shaking in the cage and a figure standing in front. "Or you get away from him, you bastard," Naruto demanded. The Kyuubi stared at Naruto wide-eyed. He had never had someone defend him. It was a new feeling. He was the cause of all Naruto's pain, and yet here he was defending the demon against an unknown foe. The other figure, however, started chuckling and turning around slightly, showing his eyes, which caused Naruto to gasp. It was the rinnegan. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, we meet at last," said the mysterious man. "Well, since you know my name, don't you think it would be fair if I knew yours?" questioned Naruto. The figure walked out of the shadows the Kyuubi had formed and stepped into the light, revealing a 6'5" man with long red hair with two front bits sticking up, his rinnegan eyes piercing Naruto. He wore a giant black cape, a black tank top, blue bottoms and blue sandals, and a necklace that multiple tomos. "Well, of course my name is Rikudo Sennin." Chapter 3. Demon and Ba Summon Speech. Demon and Ba Summon Thoughts. Previously, well, of course my name is Rikudo Sennin. Now, Naruto stared at the rinnegan user in front of him. He was sure he had heard the name Rikudo Sennin before, but he couldn't remember where. "Okay Naruto, think, what do we know about him so far? His name is Rikudo Sennin, sounds familiar. Okay, what else? He has the rinnegan. Maybe he's related to Nagato. What else?" Naruto's eyes widened at his last thought. The Kyuubi is scared of him. Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts by the sound of clapping. The Rikudo Sennin was clapping and giggling at the surprised look on Naruto's face. "It seems you have figured out just who I am." The Rikudo Sennin still laughing at Naruto's face. Naruto regained his composure and now narrowed his crystal blue eyes at the legendary ninja in front of him. "I don't care who you are, what are you doing in my head? If you're having trouble leaving, I could show you the way out with my foot," Naruto said with a smirk, causing the sage's face to scowl. Stop, don't fight him, he's too powerful." The Kyuubi roared in fear for Naruto. Naruto was yet again left wide-eyed. The Kyuubi, the strongest of the 9 demons, was scared of a ninja. "You should listen to the demon. It seems you have been able to tame the fox," the sage said, hoping to get a reaction out of the demon, and was not left disappointed as the Kyuubi started to growl, but was instantly shut up. The snap of the Rikudo Sennin fingers. The Kyuubi was on the floor in pain. "Stupid demon, I created you, remember your place," the sage said harshly to the Kyuubi. Naruto activating his sharingan, showing 2 tomos in each eye, and charged towards the man, intending to land a punch on the sage. As the fist was about to meet the sage's face, it was caught in the palm of the Sennin. "Did you really think you would be able to beat me, mortal?" the Rikudo Sennin announced, while channeling chakra into Naruto's body, causing him to back off and hold his eyes pain. The sage started laughing again at Naruto as he thrashed around in pain, while the Kyuubi looked at Naruto with fear and sadness. "You bastard, what did you do to me?" questioned Naruto, still holding his eyes. "I've given you the power you have always wanted." Naruto opened one eye, his 2-tomo sharingan was spinning so fast the tomos were nothing more than a blur. "The power to stop your pain, the power to achieve your dream." Naruto was struggling to resist the strength, however his body seemed to be accepting the power that he was being given. "Why do you fight it? I can feel it, your hatred, your anger. Why suppress these emotions? They will make you strong. I know you still hate them, the villagers, the glares they gave you even after you defeated pain, and those who did show you respect only respected your last name. I know you came close to letting it all go, embracing your anger, but that Iruka fool got in the way. You hate them, don't you?" the sage said, hoping to get Naruto angry. Naruto never said a word, however, just like his body, his mind was slowly giving up after each word. His eyes were still spinning, but were starting to slow down. "Why fight it? I can give you the power that will make everyone acknowledge who you are," the rinnegan user said, while walking closer towards Naruto. Naruto's body was being surrounded by chains first, his wrists followed by his ankles. He was thrown to the wall, while the Rikudo Sennin laughed. "Fool, you will always be too weak," the sage said, turning around, letting his red hair wave. He started walking towards the Kyuubi, smiling. "It's time to go now. I hope you enjoyed your little vacation." Naruto's dream world. Naruto found himself laying in water. He hopped out and looked around to see a small island with one tree in the middle. He started walking closer to the island when a yellow flash caught his attention. Naruto started running towards where he saw the flash. The area was deserted, there was no sign of anyone. He sighed as he went to walk away, only to be stopped by 2 hands, one on his left shoulder and the other on his right. He turned around and gasped at what he saw. There, standing on the left, was the 4th Hokage known as Minato Namikaze, and also Naruto's father, and on the right was a red-haired woman known as Kushina Uzumaki, his parents. "It's good to see you again, son," Minato said, slightly saddened. "Does this mean I'm dead?" Naruto asked, refusing to look at his parents. "Well, son, that's your choice," Kushina said, lifting Naruto's head up so he could meet her gaze. Before Naruto could question his mother, Minato's facial features turned serious. "Naruto, do you know why the Rikudo Sennin was in your mind?" Seeing his son's confused face, he continued the story. "As you know, the Rikudo Sennin had 2 children, one who wanted to rule through peace, the other through power. The older brother is the ancestor of the Uchiha clan, and somehow the part of the Rikudo Sennin is trapped inside a sharingan until the mangekyou sharingan is unlocked. But that doesn't make sense. Why is he evil then?" Naruto questioned. As for that I can't be Tsurame, having the Jubi sealed inside him made him obsessed with power. Naruto looked towards his mother with caring eyes. What do you mean it's my choice? Naruto asked with a serious gaze. It means it's up to you if you want to go back or not, you just have to fight for control of your mind, Kushina said, confusing Naruto. Before Naruto had the chance to speak, he was stopped by his mother's finger on his lips. Naruto, close your eyes. Naruto slowly started to close his eyes. Let go of your hatred. Kushina wrapped her arms around Naruto, embracing him into a hug. Minato had come forward and put his hand on his shoulder and smiled. You're ready, remember we're proud of you, son. Naruto, now with his eyes closed, was remembering all the hatred he received. At this point Naruto opened his eyes, revealing a three-tomoed sharingan. Back to Naruto's mind, the surroundings started to change. The one small isolated was gone, as were his parents. He opened his eyes only to see the familiar brick road that led to the Kyuubi. The Rakuto Sennin was about to rip the seal of the Kyuubi's cage, releasing it from its cage. He was stopped when he heard a mumble behind him. He slowly turned head neck. What he saw made both himself and the Kyuubi to go wide-eyed. Impossible, the sage muttered, staring at the still shackled Naruto. Naruto's eyes were staring into the Rakuto Sennin's. The three-tomoed sharingan met the rinnegan. The sage started to smirk. Your hate is stronger than I thought. To be able to resist the seal at this level is extraordinary, the Rakuto Sennin said, clearly impressed by Naruto's will. I forgive them, Naruto announced. I forgive them all, I don't need your power. Naruto shouted, snapping the chains and releasing him. The Sennin felt a bit of his body crack and eventually shatter like glass. The Kyuubi looked at Naruto with fear, pride and respect. That was until he remembered what was happening outside of Naruto's mind. Kid, you need to go stop Madara. Don't worry, you're not too late to save the blonde, but I can feel her struggling, the fox explained. Naruto nodded, closing his eyes again. When he reopened his eyes, he was staring at the destroyed Hokage Tower, where he saw two fighters and one getting punched to the ground. The fighter got up and ran back towards the other. Naruto jumped as high as he could, landing on the roof of the building, only to gasp at the sight before him. You were a fool, Senju, you could never beat an Uchiha like me, Madara said, holding a sword through Tsunade's chest. Naruto could already feel tears spilling out of his eyes as he saw his last precious person dying in front of him. He placed his palm to the ground, making a seal. He dashed forward as fast as he could, kicking Madara in the ribs, sending him and the sword off the building. Naruto grabbed Tsunade and disappeared in a yellow flash to where the seal was. Tsunade was bleeding heavily and didn't have enough chakra to heal the wound. Her usual white robe was now being dyed crimson red. Naruto placed both his hands on where the sword had pierced her, trying desperately to stop the bleeding. Tsunade looked up. Her vision was slightly blurry and could see a patch of yellow. She could feel drops of water land on her face. As her vision got more and more clear, she smiled when she saw that the patch of blonde was Naruto. Naruto looked down at the dying blonde and could see her eyes open and smiling at him. You're going to be alright, it's just a little cut, don't give up on me. Yet Tsunade am not going to use Bachan, as when someone is dying, you won't insult them, Naruto said, trying to not only convince her she was going to be alright, but also himself. Naruto, remember I am a medic, the cuts too deep, Tsunade said, raising her hands, wiping the tears out of Naruto's eyes. Please don't leave me, you're all I have left, Naruto said, hugging Tsunade, trying to keep her warm. Do love you, Naruto. Tsunade finished by kissing Naruto on the forehead and falling limp in Naruto's hands with a peaceful smile. Naruto's heart stopped beating, his breath slowed down. He could hear Madara getting up again, but he didn't care. His last precious person was dead. His eyes were closed. He could feel the tears leaking through his eyelids and dropping on the blonde below. It seems you were unable to protect another one, Madara said, walking towards Naruto. Naruto was trying his hardest not give in to his hatred. His breathing quickened, his heart started beating even faster, and his eyes started to burn again. He held the blonde woman in his arms, hoping she would wake up. When the realization of her being dead hit him, his head shot up in the air. The rain pounded on his face. Again his eyes opened, revealing a new pattern, rings and one black iris. Shinra Tensei, Naruto shouted with a slight dynamic tone. The ground underneath them cracked and suddenly everything was blown away, the monument, the forest, everything. When the blast was finished, there was nothing left except barren wasteland. However, Naruto was still holding Tsunade. She was the only thing that was not damaged by his attack. Do love you too, Tsunade, not as in couple-wise, Naruto said as he collapsed next to Tsunade, his facing meeting hers. I'll see you in a minute. Naruto finished kissing her forehead and falling unconscious, letting the darkness take him. Naruto found himself staring at the Kyuubi. To say that he seemed annoyed would be an understatement. You used up all your chakra, and that last attack destroyed your organs due to your lack of expertise with the rinnegan, the Kyuubi sneered. Naruto looked down, pondering over what the Kyuubi had said to him. How do I have the rinnegan? Naruto asked bluntly. The rinnegan is a Kekkei Jinkai that is only found in the Uzumaki clan. It can only be unlocked when the user is under immense pain. You probably unlocked it when Tsunade died. Naruto nodded. So I'm guessing you're going to heal me now, right? Naruto asked. To his surprise, the Kyuubi shook his head. Afraid I can't, I'm using most of my chakra, keeping you alive in your mind, but if I try to heal your body, you will die instantly. Naruto smiled at what the Kyuubi said, knowing it would piss him off. Looks like we'll be going to hell together, Naruto said cheerfully. Really funny, I'm not going to let it end like this, the Kyuubi said, lowering its head behind the cage. You have a plan then, Naruto stated, only to be proven correct when the fox nodded. Yes, but you're going to have to trust me and rip off the seal, the demon fox said, waiting, showing no ill intentions. Naruto eyed the fox carefully as he walked up to the cage. As soon as he was face to face with the fox, he nodded. He was suddenly raised into the air, so he was right in front of the seal. In one quick movement the piece of paper was discarded. I know there was something else on the cage when Naruto ripped the seal off, but I can't remember it. The gate slowly opened, and the Kyuubi slowly walked out of the cage for the first time since it was sealed. Kid, I need you to sign the summoning contract, it's the only way for you to go back, the Kyuubi said, pulling out a scroll and putting it in front of Naruto. Naruto looked at the scroll to see that no one had ever signed the scroll. He looked at the bottom corner of the scroll and saw a picture of a golden bird on fire. Phoenix, Naruto whispered, I guess I'm the first to sign this. Then Naruto finished signing the scroll. The fox nodded at its container as he saw Naruto squirm in pain, trying to hold his back, but stopped as soon as the pain stopped, and on his back revealing a giant golden phoenix that was on fire. Okay kid, summon the phoenix boss. Naruto bit his thumb, releasing some blood, and went through hand seals and finally called Kuchius no Jutsu, slamming his hands to the ground. A giant hole formed between the Kyuubi and Naruto. Slowly a giant golden phoenix the same size as Gamabunta started rising from the ground, elegantly stretching its flaming wings. As soon as its entire body was out, the hole beneath the phoenix closed and the bird looked down with its blood-red eyes. Who dares summons me, the giant golden phoenix said, looking around, only seeing Naruto and even the Kyuubi looking at him slightly scared. Naruto stared at the giant golden phoenix before regaining his senses. I am the one who summoned you, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. So you wish to be my summoner? Very well, I'll give you a chance. My name Ryu, the oldest of the summons. Now look into my eyes, mortal. I will decide if you are worthy. If not, I will kill you, said the phoenix now known as Ryu, as he looked at both the Kyuubi and Naruto. Once getting a nod, the once blood-red eyes of the phoenix changed to gold and stared intensely at Naruto, piercing his soul. Interesting, the boy once held a lot of hatred. Now to check your memory, impossible. How has his hatred not consumed him? Yes, I think I have finally found the one. This was the thought that Ryu was thinking while he examined all of Naruto's memories and was shocked that someone who could be hated so much had not succumbed to his inner demon. Okay, you have passed my test. The next time you wake up you will be able to summon the Phoenix clan. Until next time, Naruto-san. Ryu said before his eyes turned red again. Naruto's vision was starting to get blurry and suddenly collapsed as he entered. He heard both Ryu and the Kyuubi speak. I'm going to use that technique, however, as soon as I start my chakra will stop healing his body. That is where you will come in. Ryu don't know much, the Kyuubi. Okay, when you start the technica I will use my ultimate resurrection jutsu on Naruto, replied Kyu. The Kyuubi stopped the chakra flow that was keeping Naruto alive and his body went straight into shutdown. His heart and lungs shut down in synchronization. The Phoenix boss and the Kyuubi shouted. Time travel no jutsu, roared the Kyuubi. Rebirth no jutsu, Kyu also shouted. Suddenly a giant white light surrounded the entire area, leaving the view impossible to see. A couple miles outside of Konoha, Naruto was able to open his eyes a little, but could still not make shapes. He could hear noises of different people. Sensei, there is a boy in the crater. What should we do? Asked a more caring one. We should kill him or turn him into an emotionless tool for the village, replied a more harsh and bitter one. Naruto at this point was thinking, where on earth was he? No, Danzo, we will take him back to the village and get him fixed up, then we will listen to how he got here. Is that clear? The strict voice also replied, but also had a caring tone. His sentence was mostly set towards Danzo, who nodded. Here is Kun, pick the boy up, we're going back to the village. Naruto heard footsteps getting closer towards him. However, when he felt someone pick him up, he felt sleep claim him once again as he fell unconscious. Wherever he was, he would worry about that later. Chapter 4. A beep beep. Naruto squinted his eyes to the point where he could see blurry objects. He could hear distant voices and footsteps. He let out a pained groan as he sat up and checked his bandaged torso. He couldn't help but notice something different. He painfully stood up and walked into the bathroom and looked into the mirror. He gasped when he saw his appearance. He was 7 years old, however he had lost his whisker marks and his hair was still spiky and long as his bangs reached to his cheeks. Like Minato's, but slightly shorter. Kyuubi, can you tell me what happened and why I look different? Asked Naruto, still looking in the mirror. Don't you remember I sent you back in time, and for your appearance I didn't want anyone to ask questions when the other you was born, and you look exactly same, finished the Kyuubi, breaking off the link with Naruto, leaving him with his own thoughts. While Naruto was still looking in the mirror, many questions were going through his. How far have I gone back? Who brought me back? He was brought out of his daze when he heard a knock on the other side of the bathroom door. Hello, are you alright in there? Said a nurse. Naruto looked at the door for a couple of seconds, thinking of something to say. He knew he had to say something. I was just getting some water, be out in a second," he replied. He took one last look at the mirror and sighed. He turned around again and started walking towards the door. When he opened the door he stepped out and took a good look at the nurse. She was around 23 years old and had short brown hair that was tied into a bun. She was around 56 and had brown pupilless eyes. The woman looked at him for a second and remembered that this patient should not get out of bed on Hokage's orders. She smiled at him to show she wasn't going to hurt him. "Hello, my name is Numi. It's good to see you better, but you have to remain in bed till you get better," Numi said, walking towards the bed. Naruto was about to argue back about how he was feeling better and he had healed. He was about to tell her about how he heals faster than most. However, he chose to just shut up and walk towards the bed. As he sat on the hospital bed he could immediately tell that the equipment being used were ancient back in his timeline. He looked towards the end of the bed and saw Numi looking at his chart. He was about to say something when he heard a new voice standing at the door. It was the Sharingan and Nidame Hokage. "I hope you aren't causing any trouble now?" asked the tall gray-haired man that had a face protector and both sides of his face. He also sported a smirk. "Better question, how are you feeling, young one?" asked the brown-haired man who had brown hair and brown eyes. He also appeared to be quite old. He too held a smirk but also had a caring face. Naruto found himself staring awe at the two ninjas walking towards his bed. Both were known as being two of the strongest ninjas of all time, one for being able to use Mokuton, wood release, and the other being known as the best Suiton user of all time. While Naruto found himself staring at both the Sharingan and Nidame Hokage. The Sharingan walked over to Naruto, who was still in a daze over the whole thing, and waved his hand in front of Naruto's face. "Are you alright? My name is Hiroshima Senju. I am the Sharingan, and this is my brother Tobirama Senju, and he is the Nidame Hokage. What is your name, little one?" the brown-haired man, now known as Hiroshima, said. Naruto nodded, at first struggling to find his voice. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze," Naruto said, earring wide eyes of both Hokages. "Namikaze," whispered Tobirama, surprise evident in his voice. "Uzumaki," Hiroshima said, walking over to the noose with Tobirama checking the chart, only to gasp at it. "Naruto, did you know that you had Uchiha DNA inside you?" asked Tobirama, narrowing his eyes at Naruto, but quickly calmed down when he saw Naruto shake his head. "No, I didn't. He bet the Kyuubi had something to do with this. However, I could use this, but what's an Uchiha? Does it have anything to do with my eyes keep changing?" asked Naruto as innocently as he could. Hiroshima and Tobirama looked at each other for a brief second and nodded, turning around to look at Naruto with a neutral face. "Naruto-kun, could you tell us what happened before we found you?" asked Hiroshima, who was clearly the talker out of the two. Naruto looked at Hiroshima, thinking of what to say as he was thin ice. "I can't tell them the whole truth, they'll think I'm mental." "Will you quiet down, Naruto? Of course you can't tell them the truth. This is a new start. Think of the lives you could save. You could prevent a lot of events that happened in your time. Who knows, you may even be able to save that Hibi team," the Kyuubi informed. "Yeah, I agree, and living a life without being hated sounds cool, but how come the first can't sense you? I mean, isn't that a part of his ability?" asked Naruto, worried. "Yes, he would be able to sense me if I had demon chakra in me, but I don't anymore. It seems that all my chakra has been added to your own reserves purified. I am simply just living in your mind, so I will be able to break any genjutsu straight away. However, I do have one request. I would like to be able to see what you see, to smell what you smell, to gain my senses back." "Okay, but I can cut it whenever I like." "Okay," said Naruto in a tone that left no question. The Kyuubi nodded, knowing it was the best he was going to get out of it. "Hey Naruto-kun," Naruto, a voice said, snapping Naruto out of his thoughts and his conversation. "Oh, sorry, what was it you asked again?" Naruto laughed sheepishly while scratching the back of his head, causing both Hokages and the nurse to fassip him. "We asked Naruto-kun what happened before we found you," asked Hashirama, still not showing any emotion in his voice other than caring. "Oh yeah, I remember. I'll tell them some things, but not much. Come on, Naruto, you were always good at hiding stuff." "He lived in small house inside a secluded forest in Spring Country with my mother, father and my older brother. However, they are all dead. Now my brother unlocked those weird red-eye things and was obsessed with becoming stronger. It was 1 week ago that I saw it. I heard a weird noise in the middle of the night and went to check it out. When I got to my parents' room, I found them both dead. I went to check on my brother Sok. I found him in his room with a bloody sword in his hand. He went to attack me with he had a weird shape in his eyes. As he got closer, my eyes felt weird. Everything slowed down. I reached the closest thing I could found. I didn't mean to kill him." Naruto looked around the room and saw everyone had a pathetic look, so he decided to continue, taking a couple of slow breaths, acting the part, but deep down this was hitting too close to home in his opinion. "I reached out and grabbed the kunai on his desk and stabbed him. You have to believe me, I didn't mean to kill him." At this point, Naruto had began to let genuine tears out. The whole story did reminded him of how Sasuke died. "After that I just ran off. I didn't know where to, but my eyes still felt weird until I collapsed," Naruto finished. I see Naruto-kun, however there are still a few more questions I would like to ask if you don't mind, asked Tobirama, and continued when he saw Naruto nod in acceptance. Naruto-kun, have you had any training in the ninja arts? He looked at Naruto, who only nodded again. Okay, much do you know, and who taught you if you don't mind me asking? Naruto looked up before answering his question. Well, I know a little of ninjutsu, taijutsu and jinjutsu. That was as far as my 2 cents got. Tobirama seemed to accept this, as did his brother and the nurse who was crying for some reason. Okay Naruto-kun, I believe you, however I need to ask you something really important. What do you plan to do now? Asked the Nadame. Naruto pretended to be in thought about the question. Well, would it be possible for me to become a ninja for this village? Asked Naruto, as he looked up at the occupants in the small single room, who were smiling. Well Naruto-kun, I'm certain that can be arranged, but for now you get your rest. You'll be put into the academy when it starts next week, so once you get out of here come to my office, and I'll sort you out with everything you'll need. Okay, until then. Tobirama finished walking out of the room with Hashirama, who also bid his farewell to Naruto, followed by the nurse who told him to get some rest as she left to check on the other patients. Unknown to everyone, however, there was a certain Uchiha who had a battle fan on his back. Alright, if you can't tell who it is, just stop living. Had listened to the entire conversation from outside. He stopped the chakra flow to his feet and fell of the wall of the hospital and landed graciously on the floor and walked down the streets of Konoha, ignoring the waves and greetings from both civilians and ninjas. Council room. The council room, which consists of the clans such as the Inyazuku, Aburam, Nara, Hyuga, Akamichi, Yamanaka, Sarutobi, Kurama, Uchiha and the Senju. However, ever since the start of the First War a civilian council had been formed as well, which involved the most important business owners and a civilian representative. Hashirama had thought this would be a good idea as it helped the civilians feel more a part of the village. However, with the war they had been trying to get more power over the council and have more involvement in running the ninjas of the village. Usually they would certain clans to be put into Kra. This had especially started to annoy the Senju clan. Of course, they had been low in numbers, but both the first and second Hokage thought this was an abomination. But like always, every matter that happens in the village had to mention in the meetings, and here we find both Tobirama and Harashima in the room sitting at a large circular table, and after hours of pointless talk about how the village was doing in missions, money and the academy, which now the subject of letting the council know of Naruto. Okay, the last issue of the day. Yesterday Team Tobirama were sent towards the borders of Fire Country. However, on the way back they had some complications. Tobirama started with a sigh, as this was going to cause a stir. Mummers around the table started, mostly the civilian side anyway. Hiruzen Sarutobi found a 7-year-old boy and was brought back to the village. The medical reports say he suffered from extreme chakra exhaustion and minor injuries. The medical staff said it was remarkable that the boy was up. They expected him to be out for at least a week or two. As soon as Tobirama finished, the civilians were out of the seat shouting. Is it a Kekijinke? Asked a fat businessman. Is it dangerous? Asked another. Can it be used to heal other people? If so, I demand him to be experimented on. Screeched to the pink-haired civilian. Give you one guess at her last name. No, shouted Tobirama, slamming his fists onto the table, letting a serious amount, silencing everyone and making all the civilians piss themselves. As Tobirama sat down again, releasing everyone from his killing intent, the sound of clapping could be heard from behind the door to the council room. The door slowly opened, revealing Uchiha Madara. Most of the civilians smirked, thinking that the Uchiha clan would back them up, but only if they knew. I agree with Hokage-sama. What else could you tell us about the boy? Madara asked, eyeing wide eyes from everyone in the room, as it was no secret that Madara hated the Senju family and went out of his way to disagree with them and was never respectful. Hashirama and Tobirama narrowed their eyes at Madara. Why are you late, Madara? The meeting started hours ago, and why are you so interested in the boy? Asked Hashirama. Come on now, Hashirama, these meetings are boring. It's not like we learn anything new. Profit here, loss there. However, I am interested in the boy. If he were a normal boy you would have just filled the paperwork and that would be it, but you didn't, which brings me to my next question. Who is he? Asked Madara, earning a snicker from a few of the clan heads over the fact that they too thought the meetings were boring. However, even though both Senju agreed, they narrowed their eyes even more before looking at the report in front of them. Very well, the boy's name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. However, the report also mentions he possesses Uchiha DNA. It is also confirmed he possesses the sharingan. However, it is unknown how developed it is. Tobirama started, earning wide eyes from everyone, even Madara, who was faking it, as he already knew. There are reports before he was bandaged he had a giant phoenix tattoo, which we believe is a summon contract. However, even this surprised Madara. He had been trained by his father and brother from a young age. But what surprised me the most were his chakra levels there of the charts. He had also requested to join the village as his family was slaughtered. Tobirama finished, however, inside was impressed by Naruto. Even though he knew this information, it did in fact sound impressive out loud. Put him under the Kra Act. Have him marry my daughter. Mine too. The civilian council was in uproar. Even some of the shinobi clans thought having the daughters married off was a good idea, but never expressed them out loud like the civilian side did. Tobirama had vein on his forehead throbbing, ready to lose his temper at any moment, but of course there was just one who didn't know when to shut up. "Senju, I demand this boy to marry my daughter," screeched the pink-haired woman, eraining gasps and pain, agonizing moans over the magnitude of the sound coming from her. Tobirama stood up, appearing calm, but what happened next frightened everybody. He raised his hand, and a ring of water appeared around the pink-haired screecher, making her literally piss her pants. "I suggest you be quiet, Haruno, and show respect, as I will tell you all this once. As long as I'm in charge, no one will be put under any law where they have to marry multiple wives and be forced to have tons of babies just to turn them into weapons. They are people first, shinobi second. Naruto-kun will start the academy next week. That is all. Dismissed," Tobirama said, walking out of the room. The civilian side were still angry, as they could only think of ways of protecting themselves. However, the clan heads could see where the Hokage was coming from. They were in fact people, not just ninjas. "Well, that was troublesome," said Shikara, who was 59, long black with a scar above his eyebrow. "Yeah, I hear you. Looks like this year's academy rookies are going to be interesting," said Rei Inyazuka, who had long purple hair, large canines, blue eyes, and had a large blue and white dog next to her. All of the clan heads walked out of the room, mumbling about going to bed, with the exception of one of them, saying it was too troublesome to stay in the room. The civilian side stood up, still upset that none of their requests were acknowledged, pushing past each other, even trying to push a clan head out of the way, but was unlucky as he was sent flying out of the window courtesy of Akamachi's fist. Sakura Haruno was walking back to her house, only greeting the people she thought were upper class. She was annoyed that Hokage ignored a request about putting the boy with multiple wives. She smirked as a thought popped into her head. "Yes, I'll get Sakuno-chan to befriend him and get her to date the Namikas, then I will have 2 votes in the council. It's perfect." Uchiha Madara was happy with the way the meeting went and was also surprised that the boy had incredible chakra levels and a summoning contract. He also knew about the boy's story and was curious if he had unlocked the mangekyou sharingan. Yes, he was definitely going to visit this boy. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikas, I wonder if I could teach him, he would become the strongest shinobi ever. Maybe I will stick around a bit longer. Guess I'll go apologize to the Uchiha elders," Madara thought, while walking his way back to the Uchiha compound. Chapter 5. Demon Ba Summon Speech. Demon Ba Summon Thoughts. Human Lesser Summon Speech. Human Lesser Summon Thoughts. Location: hospital. Next day. It had been 2 days since Naruto had gone back in time. The sun was coming, and people were making their way through the streets. Some were opening their stores. However, the sound of panting and counting could be heard from room 308 in Konoha's hospital here. Find Naruto doing one-arm press-ups. 997, 998, 999, 11,000. Naruto finished rolling onto his back, panting. His bruises and cuts had fully healed thanks to the Kyuubi. He was wearing black pants he was given by the hospital staff. His top was discarded on the bed. His sweat was pouring off Naruto's face and chest. "I need to keep going. I need to get stronger," Naruto snapped out of his thoughts when the sudden sound of the doorknob began to be turned. He gulped, knowing what was about to happen. Numi had walked up the stairs to the 3rd floor. She was still mad. She had caught Naruto several times training, even though she had told him to stay in bed and rest. She smiled when she thought of the time she had spent with Naruto. No matter how mad she got at him, she could never stay mad at him. He would always just smile and scratch his head, even though he had only been there for 2 days. They had already formed a bond. She felt protective of him ever since she had heard his story about his family. She saw him as a little brother, and she knew he felt the same way, as he would always call her Wani-chan when she came to see him. Numi was standing outside room 308 when she heard heavy breathing. She quickly turned the doorknob. Walking in, she noticed the bed was empty. She was about to shout him, but heard the heavy breathing coming from the other side of the bed. She casually walked around the bed. As soon as she saw Naruto laying on the floor, panting, she walked towards him too sweetly. "Nari-chan, what are you doing on the floor? You're not training, are you? Because you do remember what happened last time, don't you?" she asked a bit too sweetly. Naruto gulped. He remembered how she made him watch helplessly as she ate his ramen. "I don't know if they had ramen at his point in time, but they do in my story." No, I'm not training, Wani-chan. I fell off my bed," Naruto said, sweating, hoping she wouldn't see through his lie. However, unfortunately for him, she was no idiot. "You wouldn't be lying to me now, would you, Nari-chan?" Numi said sweetly, helping Naruto off the floor. Secretly, she wasn't mad at him. She always smiled when he called he Wani-chan. Naruto just shook his head while smiling. Like Numi, he had also felt like she had become a sister figure in his new life. She had went out of her way for him and got him ramen. Well, she wasn't even meant to be at the hospital. She was the first bond he had in this life, so when she called him Nari-chan, he didn't mind. He felt bad that he had to lie to her about being from the future, but he needed to take that secret to the grave. "Good," she replied, ruffling his untamed hair while smiling. She walked over to his charts, taking a couple of seconds to read the information. "Well, looks like you'll be able to go home today. I'll just need to sign the papers," she said with a slight frown, which Naruto noticed. "Hey Wani-chan, don't be sad, I'll still come visit you," he said, smiling at her, which caused her to smile. She gasped when a sudden thought came to her. "Nari-chan, where are you going to live?" she asked, worried that he would be put into the orphanage. Before Naruto could react, there was a voice coming from the door revealing Tobirama. "Yes, I was wondering that as well, Naruto-kun. Good morning you too," Tobirama said with a smile. Before Naruto could say anything, Numi beat him to the punch. "Good morning Hokage-sama, I was wondering, since Nari-chan doesn't have anywhere to stay." She paused, thinking about what she was about to say. "Would it be okay if Nari-chan lived with me?" She finished, getting surprised looks from both Tobirama and Naruto. Tobirama looked at Numi for a second before looking at Naruto and smiled. Well, he started walking closer towards the men sitting on the side of the bed. He looked outside at the sunrise. "That's completely up to Naruto-kun. Ever since your announcement to the council, a lot of people have been wanting to adopt you, even the Uchiha clan." This got surprised looks from both Numi and Naruto. "However, I was going to ask if you wanted to stay at the Hokage mansion, as my brother's wife lives there. She too is in Uzumaki." "Mito Uzumaki. So what do you want to do, Naruto-kun?" finished Tobirama, finally looking at Naruto. Naruto looked at Numi and could tell she was sad, and if one were to look closer they would see tears threatening to spill. He smiled and looked back at Tobirama. "I do not wish to be adopted by anyone, as they would just try and use me to help their reputation," said Naruto, earning a surprised look from both Numi and Tobirama, as they did not know Naruto was that bright. "Even though it's a generous offer allowing me to stay at your house, I'm going to have to decline." This earned a shocked look from Numi. However, Tobirama continued to smile. Naruto looked at Numi, who was still in a state of shock. "I'd like to live with my Wani-chan. That's if she's okay with I." Naruto was unable to finish his sentence before he was brought into a bone-crushing hug, surprising both Naruto and the Nidaime at the speed Numi showed. "Of course you can stay with me, Nari-chan," she said, still hugging him. "Arigato," Naruto said silently. Tobirama watched the scene in front of him and couldn't help but smile. However, he also didn't have all the time in the world. He had to get back to his office to the paperwork. He paled slightly at the thought. "Well, it's your decision, Naruto-kun, but you are still welcome to come over whenever you want. Besides, maybe it was good thing you decided to live with Numi-chan. I was afraid my grandniece would kill you," the Nidaime said, getting a chuckle out of Numi. But Naruto went completely pale, remembering how Tsunade was when she was angry. "Anyway, I'll go have a word with Numi-san landlord and inform him that she will be having an extra guest. Also, here is some money to buy some clothes, equipment and some to spend on whatever you want. After this month you will be getting a check of 15,000 ryo month. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea of the Japanese currencies until you reach the rank of genin." "Okay," Tobirama finished, giving Naruto a look as if to say, "Do you understand?" "Hi Hokage-sama." "Arigato." Naruto bowed politely, taking the envelope with the money in. Tobirama smiled and stood up, saying his goodbyes as he left. Numi looked towards Naruto, who was still looking at the envelope. "Keep that safe, Naru-chan, because when I get off for lunch we're going shopping and getting you settled into our apartment," she said with a smirk. Naruto knew all too well it was a smirk that told him that he would be carrying a lot of bags when they go shopping. However, he just smiled at her and hugged her. "Arigato Wani-chan for everything," Naruto said, genuinely grateful. She smiled at him while returning the hug. "No problem, Naru-chan. I've got to get back to work now, but I'll sign your discharge papers and I'll come back at lunch, okay?" she said, and he nodded. She walked out of the room, leaving Naruto, who decided that he was going to train again. Lunchtime. Naruto had just finished getting ready. He was wearing a orange sleeveless top and black bottom that just went past his ankles, finished with black sandals. He also wrapped bandages around his wrists where he had seals on to store items. He was looking at his appearance in the mirror, thinking of how much different he looked from his other 7-year-old self. The longer hair, lack of whisker marks and narrower eyes made him look more like his father than ever before. "Are you ready, Naru-chan?" Numi said as she walked into Naruto's room out of her work clothes. She wore a blue top with short sleeves, cream bottoms that reached her ankles. Her hair was let loose, reaching her mid-back. "Yeah, Wani-chan," he shouted as he came out of the bathroom and walking out of the hospital with Numi. Konoha Market District. Numi and Naruto were walking down the crowded streets. Numi smiled and waved at a few of the civilians who greeted them. She was oblivious to the fact they were trying to get into Naruto's favor by giving them some free stuff such as groceries. Naruto, however, was not so oblivious, as he would only greet those who weren't kissing his ass and were generally happy to see a new face. After half an hour of clothes normal clothes, not shinobi clothing, shopping, Naruto collapsed on a nearby chair. Numi walked out with a smile that was as wide as an akimichi, because in both hands, there must have been at least 6 in each hand, which she quickly dropped on Naruto. She giggled at his complaints and how he was carrying a bag on his head. "Okay, Naru-chan, we are going to drop all these bags off at the apartment, then we're going for lunch." Numi turned her head to see if Naruto was still following. She giggled as Naruto was carrying a bag with a strap in his mouth. They continued walking down the streets till they made it to the apartment. Apartment. Naruto and Numi had finally made it up the 5 flights of stairs and just entered the apartment. Naruto slowly walked in with wobbly knees and then suddenly collapsing on the floor, all the bags piled on Naruto while he was at the bottom. Numi walked up to Naruto and picked the bag with the groceries up. She placed the bags on the counter in the kitchen, taking some instant ramen. Naruto looked around the apartment, getting a good look. It had a small kitchen, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. The living area had 2 sofas. "Naru-chan, go put your clothes in your room," Numi said with a smile. Naruto nodded and walked into the bedroom to put his stuff away. Naruto walked out of his bedroom and walked towards the kitchen, where Numi was with 2 cups of instant ramen. After eating their ramen, Numi stood up, putting the ramen containers in the bin. "Naru-chan, I'm going back to work now, I'll see you when I get home." Numi finished throwing Naruto a set of keys and then walking out of the door. "Okay, time to go get my stuff for the academy. Oh, I can't believe I have go back to that place," Naruto whined, heading back towards the market. Konoha Market District. Naruto walked back through the streets. They were less crowded. He walked past, smiling at people as he moved further up the street. The shops were gradually changing from civilian shops to shinobi shops. He stopped outside of a shop that read Riiros. Naruto walked into the store, eyeing the different selection of kunai and shuriken. Once Naruto had picked the amount of kunai and shuriken he wanted, he moved towards the ninja clothing. He picked out a pair of black bottoms, Anbu bottoms, a black top with a netting. I forgot what it's called. Itachi wore it against his battle with Sasuke, a pair of blue sandals that went to his ankles. He picked up 2 pouches, fingerless gloves with metal protectors on the back, an ink pot, and a stack of plain scrolls. As Naruto was walking back to the counter to pay for everything, he heard shouting coming from a different part of the shop. Moving his way to the sound, he found a spiky white-haired boy with tiny red lines under his eyes and a yellow-haired girl with a single ponytail and hazel eyes. "Move out of the way, Flatchest," shouted the spiky-haired kid. Naruto gulped, and knowing that was worst thing he could have said. The girl turned around, a white familiar vein throbbing on her forehead, showing she was pissed and look that would send an army pissing themselves. However, the spiky white-haired boy didn't seem to be affected. "Oh crap, if he doesn't shut up, he's dead," Naruto thought, watching the scene play out. "Hey, I told you to move. What's the matter, you deathwats?" that the kid said, pointing towards the vein on her forehead. The girl closed her eyes. Her face started to turn red with anger. However, the spiky-haired boy continued, "You was it alive, Flatchest?" he finished with a smirk. The girl opened her eyes, fire burning in them. The next thing made even Naruto cringe. "Pervert, I'm only 7, shouted the girl, smashing her fist into the back of the white-haired kid's head. The girl ran past the downed boy and accidentally knocked into Naruto. "Move," she said, knocking his shoulder, brushing the side of her face of his shoulder. Naruto watched her run out of the store. He checked his top. It was slightly wet. His eyes widened slightly. She was crying. Naruto turned his attention to boy Wo's legs were sticking out of the ground while his head was buried under. Naruto went behind him and pulled him out of the ground. "You know," Naruto started getting the boy's attention. When he turned around, Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm sure I've seen him before. I can't help but think you have death wish. I really thought she was going to kill you there." Naruto finished walking over the shelf, picking up a white bandana. The white-haired kid smiled, doing crazy poses before finishing with a peace sign. "Nah, I wouldn't die of that. Who are you anyway?" "I am the great Jiraiya." Naruto's eyes widened. In front of him was his godfather. Naruto quickly regained his composure, holding out his hand. "Naruto Namek." As Naruto finished leaving out Uzumaki, Jiraiya shook his hand. "Anyway, I've got to go pay for all my stuff. I'll see you later," Naruto said, walking off to pay for everything. Once Naruto got to the checkout, he noticed an old man who just staring at the ceiling. Naruto was slightly annoyed at the man. "Hey old man, I'd like to pay for my stuff now," Naruto said, getting the old man's attention. "Alright Gaki, give me a minute," replied the old man. When he looked over what Naruto was about to buy, he looked at him suspiciously. "Sure, you can afford all this." "Yes, I'd also like you to make these as well," Naruto said, dropping a piece of paper in front of the man, "as well as the money for everything." The man looked over the paper, scratching his bald head. "Okay, I'll make these, but you have to come and collect them. Come pick them up the day the academy starts. I should have them done by then." "The name's Riiro," the old ma finished, putting his hand out. "Namek is Naruto," said, shaking Riiro's hand. "See ya in a couple of days." "Riiro-san," Naruto said, walking out of the store. Naruto began to walk around Konoha again, stopping at certain points. He stopped at where his old apartment was, then at the ramen store. His last stop was at the academy. As he walked past, he could see several teachers preparing for the next students. "You must be Naruto-san," a voice behind Naruto said. "Yes, and you are?" Naruto said with no malice. "My name is Hirono. I'm going to be your teacher in the academy for the next 5 years. Sorry I can't talk to you more, but I have to go to a meeting," Hirono said. "Well, in that case, it was nice to meet you, Hirono-sensei," Naruto said, leaving his new sensei. Naruto began walking back to his apartment when he saw the same girl that ran past him crying in the store. It also seemed she was still crying. He began to walk over to her when 3 children the same age as himself dropped down next to her. They all had the Uchiha crest on the back of their shirts. Well, what do we have here?" "A little Senju crying," said the tallest of the 3 as he walked towards her. She lifted her head and wiped a few tears from her eyes and glared at the boy. What do you want, Uchiha? The blonde-haired girl said with so much venom, the three Uchiha scowled. Just because your granduncle is Hokage does not mean you're better than us, the tallest one said, going to kick her, but was stopped when she caught his foot. You talk too much, she said, jumping and punching the tallest one. The other two attacked from behind, kicking her in the back, sending her skidding across the floor. She stood up, wiping a bit of blood off her lip. Cowards, she muttered when she saw all three jump to attack her. She closed her eyes, waiting for their attacks, waiting for the pain. She heard the sound of fists and feet hit flesh, but felt no pain. She slowly opened her eyes and saw a blonde boy with a white bandana on. She looked wide-eyed, as he had blocked every attack. Naruto was staring at the three in front of him. He was pissed the moment he saw them gang up on the girl and saw she was about to be hit by all three. He knew he had to jump in. He was impressed when he saw her punch the tall guy and was also impressed that she stood up. He was now holding the fists of two of the attackers and had his knee up, blocking the kick. You should not have interfered if you had known what was good for you, said the shortest of the Uchiha, glaring hatefully at Naruto. Yeah, well, I guess I never have known what was good for me, but I do know what is right, Naruto said, earning scowls from the Uchiha and wide eyes of the blonde-haired girl. Naruto pushed the three Uchiha away with ease, surprising the black-haired kids. Naruto watched as the kids took the Uchiha fighting stance. Why are you attacking her? Naruto said, still not knowing who the girl was. Well, it's simple, loser. We are starting the academy the same time as the Senju. We are just showing her that she could never be as strong as an Uchiha, and neither could you, the tall raven-haired Uchiha said, while sprinting at impressive speed for a 7-year-old. He jumped in the air while bending his leg to land a vicious roundhouse kick. Meanwhile, Naruto stood there watching the raven-haired kid with a slight smirk. As he was about to make his move, he noticed a patch of blonde fly past him. Tsunade watched a blonde-haired boy that had just saved her from being beaten. She had her suspicions that some Uchiha were going to try something like this, since the Senju and Uchiha clan were born rivals. The Uchiha clan had always thought they were superior. They would use any chance they could get to humiliate or prove their dominance towards the Senju clan. She watched how he stood in front of the three Uchiha, unscared of their name. She had half expected him to run off when he found out they were from the Uchiha clan, but he just stayed there. She watched how the tallest Uchiha, she had seen him walk around Konoha, acting like he owned the streets. Jin Uchiha, he had even got some civilians to call him Jin-sama. She saw him jump up in the air preparing to kick the blonde-haired boy. He seemed familiar to her, but that was the least of her worries. She saw him just stand there waiting to be kicked. No, I have to help him, she thought, rushing past the blonde-haired boy. Tsunade smashed her fist into the dark-haired Uchiha nose, breaking it with a sickening crunch, sending him flying back to the other two Uchiha. Naruto watched as the blonde-haired girl smash her fist into the cocky Uchiha. He heard the crunch, wincing slightly as he watched him bounce off the ground and land next to his friends. Gin slowly got up with the help of the other two Uchiha, holding his nose as blood poured out. You'll regret that, slut, and you, Jin pointed at Naruto, have just made a very powerful enemy. He finished running off with the other two. Tsunade turned around to look at the boy who helped her. When she saw his face, she blushed slightly. Cute, Tsunade thought. She looked at him closer, her eyes went wide slightly. You're that jerk who pushed into me, Tsunade said, pointing at Naruto. Naruto had a vein growing on his forehead, angry at what she was accusing him of. What? You ran into me? Naruto shouted. Tsunade looked at him and remembered what Jiraiya had said to her. She hesitated slightly. Alright, no need to shout, geez, anyway, thanks for the help, even though I didn't need it, she mumbled the last part. My pleasure, I'll see you around, Naruto said, turning around, walking away. Wait. Shouted to the blonde-haired girl. Naruto turned around, staring curiously at the girl as she came running towards him. What's your name? Mine's Tsunade Senju, she said, holding out a hand waiting for him to shake. Naruto went wide-eyed as he heard her say her name. How did I not know it? Naruto thought. He quickly snapped out of his surprise and shook her hand. Naruto Namikaze, he said with a smile, making her blush slightly. Why am I blushing? I never blushed, Tsunade thought, and showed a sad expression when Naruto turned to leave. As Naruto was about to turn around, he frowned, remembering the reason he had walked over to Tsunade. He turned and looked at her and could see she was sad. Hey Tsunade, I was wondering if I could ask you a question if you don't mind, asked Naruto with a neutral expression. Eric, Naruto, she said, slightly happy that he didn't leave. I was wondering why you were crying earlier, said Naruto, slightly worrying he was about to receive a beating from the young Senju. She frowned, remembering Jiraiya. He would always ask her out, and whenever she said no, which was always, he would insult her, even though she would punch him. The insult struck her pretty hard. Even though she preferred to train and become an excellent kunoichi, she still worried if anyone would like her for her. Oh, it was just Jiraiya Baka, he always says perverted things and asks me out, and when I say no, he just insults me. I swear if he spent his time training and reading, he would be less of an idiot. People are already calling him the dead last, and we haven't even started the academy, Tsunade said, still slightly angry and upset Jiraiya would insult her for refusing a date. Naruto frowned at the word dead last. Even though it wasn't his fault, he too was the dead last due to the teacher sabotaging him by teaching him the wrong stuff and giving him harder tests than everybody else. "Jiraiya's an orphan, isn't he?" asked Naruto, surprising Tsunade, but she nodded anyway and waited for him to continue. "Maybe he's perverted as a way to be recognized, even though it's probably the worst word to be recognized. As for him training, maybe he just doesn't have anyone to acknowledge his skills, and I wouldn't be upset about what he says. He doesn't mean it because he wouldn't keep asking you out," Naruto said, earning a surprised look from Tsunade. "Wow, I never thought of it that way. I guess you're right, I should just ignore him when he insults me or does something perverted," Tsunade said with a smile. "Or you could just hit him again," snickered Naruto, causing Tsunade to giggle as well. "I was thinking of going to the library, you wanna come?" asked Naruto, smiling at how much Tsunade had cheered up. Tsunade was stunned. Of course boys had asked her to go to the library, she had always rejected them, saying she had better things to do. However, now she found herself actually wanting to go with Naruto. "Yes sure," Tsunade said with a slight blush. Tsunade, could you show me where the library is? I'm kinda new here," Naruto asked, scratching the back of his head, smiling. Tsunade couldn't help but smile at his actions. It was strange how for 1 minute he could be so mature, then the next be so carefree. However, she made note to make sure she asked him why he was in the village. "Oh alright, it's this way, follow me," Tsunade said, walking in the direction of the library with Naruto following. Library. Naruto and Tsunade continued walking towards the library, ignoring the stares they were getting. Well, Naruto was doing better than Tsunade as he was used it. Tsunade was ignoring them as much as she could, but her temper got the better of her. "What are you staring at?" shouted Tsunade, causing everyone to panic and get back to what they were doing. Well, Naruto stepped back in fear, which didn't go unnoticed by Tsunade. "Sorry about that, gets kind of annoying you know," she said while smiling, and continued walking when Naruto smiled back and nodded. As they reached the reception of the library, both Tsunade and Naruto frowned when they saw the pink-haired receptionist Sakura Haruno. Both Naruto and Tsunade thought Naruto hated the women in his previous timeline. She would always stop him from going into the library. She would always refer to him as the demon brat. She was the one that turned most of the villagers to hate Naruto, telling them he was the Kyuubi in human form. He growled a little as both Tsunade and himself got closer. Tsunade frowned at the women because she would always get her daughter to try befriend her. Tsunade hated her and her daughter. They were both too loud and suck-ups. And those who think I hate the Harunos, I don't. I'm just showing that older generation were worse than Sakura pre-Shippuden. She was brought out of her thoughts by the sound of Naruto growling. When Sakura saw both Naruto and Tsunade walking together, she inwardly frowned. She had hoped that she would be able to get her daughter together with an Namikaze heir. Due to him being the last Namikaze as the rest were lost in the first war, they were feared for their speed and knew how important they were to Konoha, and now it looked like she would have to find a way to get the Senju away from him. As the duo got close, she forced a smile. "Hello Senju-sama and Namikaze-sama, what a pleasant surprise to see you here," Sakura said, causing both Naruto and Tsunade to frown inwardly, but their faces stay neutral. "Hi, we would like enter please," Sakura-san, Tsunade said, earning a nod when she showed Sakura her library card. However, Tsunade had not realized Naruto had not been given a library card yet and knew the 3-day waiting rule for the card. "Namikaze-sama, do you have your library card?" she asked. Naruto scratched his head sheepishly as he had not known that he needed a library card due to the fact he had never been in the library, as he learned most of his techniques from his father's library and from Jiraiya. No, I didn't know I needed one," Naruto said, hoping she would just let him past. "That's okay Namikaze-sama, just go on through, but first sign your name here please. I'll have your card ready by the time you leave." Tsunade frowned at the fact she let him through that easy, as she clearly had a second motive, but she was also happy she got to spend more time with Naruto. She blushed at the thought. "Stop it, we are just friends, nothing more. Stop thinking like that, Tsunade," she thought. The duo walked past Sakura shouting their thanks as they went past and headed towards the shinobi part of the library. As they reached the shinobi section, Naruto noticed a lot of familiar faces. He even recognized Orochimaru. They finally settled down at a table. Naruto had picked a large collection of ninjutsu scrolls he knew. Due to the rinnegan he could use all 5 elements. The scrolls he picked out were Doten, Ganshuasu, Earth Style, Stone Spikes, Kaiten, Kakakyu no Jutsu, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu, Suiton, Saganden, Water Style, Water Fang Bullet, Fuiton, Tatapa, Wind Style, Great Breakthrough, Raiten, Raikyu, Lightning Release, Lightning Ball. While Naruto was looking at the ninjutsu scroll and remembering the hand signs to perform the jutsu, he couldn't help wonder why his rinnegan wasn't activating. He had tried several times sending chakra to his eyes, but each attempt always ended the same. Instead of activating the rinnegan, he would always end up activating the sharingan. It was frustrating, knowing he had a powerful Kekkei Genkai such as the rinnegan, which could control not only all 5 elemental chakra nature, but also gravity itself, and not know how to activate. Knowing that it was probably something he would learn in time, he looked over to see what Tsunade was reading. He could see she was reading on chakra control methods. He could see she was focusing on the leaf exercise. He smirked knowing what the old Tsunade's chakra control was like. He gulped, remembering what it felt like being hit by a chakra enhanced punch. They read for a couple more minutes in silence before Naruto started talking, whispering as he knew he was in the library. "So what's your family like? It must be pretty sweet being the granddaughter of the first Hokage and the grandniece of the present," Naruto asked. "Well, I love my family, but my Ka-san and Tu-san died a couple of months ago. I have a baby brother Nawaki, who is 2 years old, Gigi, Aba-san and Ooji granduncle, do look after us, but we barely get to see them. Gigi is always going to different villages, trying to find a way to end the war, and Ooji is always in his office almost all day, so it leaves me. Aba-san are a bunch of academy students to look after Nawaki, and remember a war is going on so Genin would be used in the war as well, and as you can tell a lot of people are friendly to me except the Uchiha clan, they only act friendly to me because of who I am related to. Also you wouldn't believe the amount of times Uoji has told people to stop bothering him with marriage proposals," Tsunade explained, looking up from the book she was reading. "What about you? What's your family like?" Naruto then began to explain his fake story. He felt bad telling her the sad story, but then again his past life wasn't really any better. When he mentioned about how he obtained the Sharingan she slightly flinched and her eyes hardened. However, when he told her that he was distantly related to the Uchiha and was Namikaze, her eyes softened. "I'm sorry about your parents, Naruto. Does that mean you two also live in the orphanage?" she asked, treading lightly. "I would have lived in the orphanage, but Numi One-chan said I could come live with her until I'm old enough to live in the Namikaze compound. By the way, it's okay, I've grieved over my family. I'm ready to move on with my life now, but thank you anyway," he said, smiling at her, causing her to blush slightly. "Do know this is a pretty weird thing to ask, but could I see your Sharingan?" she asked, her head slightly dropped, embarrassed that she had asked the question. Naruto saw her head drop out of embarrassment as she afraid. "I think she's stupid," Naruto thought. He shook his head and replied in a serious tone to make her feel less embarrassed. "Yeah, why not? You shouldn't be embarrassed about asking questions. How else are you going to learn, right?" he said, making her smile out of appreciation. Naruto channeled chakra towards his eyes, closing them to add more suspense, as he opened them, revealing the Sharingan with 3 tomos in each eye. He watched as Tsunade calmly walked over towards him, closely inspecting his Sharingan. He blushed as she was mere inches away. She noticed this and quickly turned away, also blushing, making sure Naruto never saw. "You know that was probably the first time I have seen a Sharingan that close without someone trying to attack me. However, you're bluey," as she said, still not facing Naruto, but now she was as red as tomato. Naruto also blushed, however he hid his behind the ninjutsu scroll he shoved towards his face. When Tsunade finally turned around, ignoring the slight pinkness on her cheeks, she looked at the clock next to the receptionist and gasped. "Oh Kami, I'm late. Aba-san's going to kill me. I've got to go, Naruto. I'll see you at the academy, Saya," she said, picking up the book she was reading and leaving the library. Naruto also walked out of the library a couple of minutes later with the ninjutsu scrolls, ignoring the pink-haired receptionist. Apartment. Naruto stumbled into the apartment. It was late, the street lights were on. When he entered the living room, he saw Numi sitting on the sofa with her feet up. When she looked at him, she noticed his ninja outfit finished off with his bandana. She did the only thing she could think of doing, kawaii, she shouted before running over to him and hugging him, suffocating him between her chest. "Onini-chan," he got out. She stopped hugging him, letting him breathe. "Sorry, but you look so cute I couldn't resist. I guess this means you're my big strong ninja, right?" she asked while playing with his bandana. No, Numi and Naruto, the only relationship they will have is brother and sister. "Yep, you're one of my precious people and I'll protect you," he said proudly and thumping his chest. Numi's only reaction yet again was kawaii and hugged Naruto. When she stopped smothering him, she stood up, walking towards her bedroom. "Well, if you're going to get big and strong, you're going to need your sleep, so don't stay up too late, Shinite Naru-chan," she said, closing her door. Naruto walked towards into his bedroom, stripping out of his clothes, leaving only his boxers on. He jumped on the bed, not even bothering to get under the covers as he laid on his back staring at the ceiling. "I wonder what the future of this world will be like. I can't believe Tsunade liked my eyes. Who would have guessed?" Naruto thought as he fell asleep. Chapter 6. First day of the academy. The sun shined brightly in the village of Konohagakure. The occupants were happily getting on with their own business. However, one blonde 7-year-old could be found moaning as he shot a pillow over his face, covering his eyes from the sun rays. "Naru-chan, get up or you're going to be late," Numi said, earning a mumble from Naruto. "Yeah, I thought you would say that," so Numi continued as she walked towards the still moaning Naruto. She stood over him and poured a glass of water over his head. Naruto jumped up in the air, hitting his head at the ceiling. He glared at Numi, who was currently chuckling. He sighed and got out of bed, walking towards the bathroom to get a shower, ignoring Numi's constant giggles. 15 minutes later, Naruto walked out of the bathroom and getting dressed. He walked out of his bedroom wearing standard black Anbu bottoms, Anbu black top, black sandals, black fingerless gloves with metal protectors on the back, and a white headband that held his bangs. Naruto was about to walk out of the apartment when he heard Numi's voice. "You be good today, Naru-chan, or no ramen tonight," she said with a smirk, causing Naruto to gulp. "Hi on One-chan," he said, running out of the apartment, ignoring Numi's giggles. Academy. The bell went off to signal everyone to get to their class. The classes were mixed between civilians and those from clans. The civilians entering the academy had just been introduced due to the war. In room 301 a new bunch of students were sitting in their seats. Their sensei stood at the front of them inspecting them all. "Hello everyone, my name is Yumino Rono. I will be your sensei for the next 5 years," Imono said smiling, trying to make everyone less nervous. Okay people, I know that people start at the academy at 6 and spend 6 years in the academy, but I felt like changing some things. Hirono scanned around the room checking the students. "Okay, I have a lot more civilians this year. Oh great, they seem to be hanging around the Uchihas and the Senjum. Where's Naruto?" Imono thought. "Okay, when I call out your name I want you to answer." "Okay," Imono finished. Tsunade entered the classroom ignoring the waves she got from the civilian children and the glares from the Uchiha. She walked to the middle row taking a seat. She was immediately rushed by 2 civilian boys sitting on both sides. She sighed whilst scanning the room looking for a certain blonde. "Hey Tsunade-chan, want to go on a date with me?" asked the boy to her left. "No," she said, not even looking at him. She seemed to pay all her attention at the door. "Senju Tsunade?" Imono asked. "Hi," she said, indicating she was here. "Uchiha Jin?" Imono asked again, looking up at the crowd of students, noticing only a few missing. Instead of answering, Jin stood up smugly, making a few fangirls have hearts in their eyes. H was as far as he got until the door burst open, revealing 2 boys on the floor. One had blonde hair, the other had white hair and tiny red marks under his eyes. The whole room stared at the bundle on the floor and struggled not to laugh. However, Tsunade just shook her head at their antics, but was secretly happy Naruto had showed up. Further up in the seats, Jin was seething. "How dare these losers interrupt me? I'm an Uchiha, people should be paying attention to me," Jin thought, while glaring hatefully at the duo. Naruto stood up, dusting himself off. He noticed everyone staring at him. He smiled sheepishly while looking at Imono. "Why are you too late?" Imono asked, sighing slightly. Jiraiya stood up, also brushing dirt off his light green robes, whilst looking at Imono with a serious face. "Sorry sensei, we were researching at the hot springs," said Jiraiya, not fazed by the amount of killing intent radiating of the girls. You were the one at the hot springs, pervert," Naruto shouted before he looked at his sensei and bowed. "Sorry sensei, I was at Riiro's picking up something," Naruto said as he walked to the corner sitting next to a pale long-haired boy. Jiraiya also walked up the stairs taking a seat a couple of seats away from Naruto. "It's okay boys, now listen for your name to be called out." "Okay, where was Inamika's?" Naruto. "Okay, it's not alphabetical order." A lot of people looked around, especially the civilian children. Most of them had heard of the last Namika's. Naruto stood up quickly and in a straight posture. "Hi sensei," he said while sitting down straight away. A few gasps were let out when people saw where the voice came from. A few of the girls instantly had hearts in their eyes, and like that Naruto had gained a fan club. "Alright, I know I'm bashing the civilians a lot, but I can't help but think they are slightly weak-minded. I'll make them better as I go along." The lesson for Naruto was boring. Imono had just talked about what chakra was and how it is formed. However, Naruto silently cheered when they were let out for a break. The class made their way out of the academy and into the training ground. Naruto instantly went to a tree and tried to walk up it. He made it a few steps before he was blown back. A few fangirls were saying it was cool what he was doing. "Damn, too much chakra," he muttered quietly to himself while standing up. He looked around and saw that he was not the only one training. Orochimaru was practicing throwing kunai. Jin was sitting down glaring at him. He saw a few of the civilians training, at least attempting to become respectable shinobi. His gaze finally came over to Tsunade, who was walking towards him with a smirk on her face. "Oh god, that smirk is never good," Naruto thought as he watched Tsunade get closer, while being followed by the same 2 civilian boys that sat next to her. "Looks like you used too much chakra," Tsunade said, sitting down next to Naruto, who was laying on his back watching the clouds. "Yeah, I know," Naruto said, lazily playing with a piece of grass between his fingers. The civilian children were looking at them as if they had grown another head. The 2 boys looked at Naruto with jealousy and hatred. They had been trying to talk to Tsunade and get her to go out on a date with one of them, however, she just ignored them all the time. Naruto stood up looking at the same tree with fire in his eyes. He turned around and smiled at Tsunade, causing her to blush slightly. "My chakra control isn't going to get any better while I'm laying around now, is it?" he said, walking towards the tree. "Damn you Kyuubi, this chakra is double-edged sword. My chakra control is ridiculous," Naruto screamed in his head. "Hey, don't blame me, it was the only way to keep you alive. Why don't you just use Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to speed your training up?" the Kyuubi asked. "I thought of that, but then I would have to tell the Hokage where I learned it and I don't really know how to answer that." "Who cares, just tell him you saw him use it and copied it with the sharingan." "Yeah, that would work I guess, but I don't want to be known for stealing Judas. Anyway, I'll talk to you later." Naruto finished. Naruto snapped back into reality, still staring at the tree. He raised his hands and shouted. "Hajuu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Instantly 1,000 Narutos appeared, shocking everyone. Naruto looked at the clones and shouted. Okay, I want half of you to climb trees and half of you to balance kunai. Instantly half of the clones ran to the trees attempting to climb it, while the other half tried to balance a kunai on their fingertips. Tsunade was staring at Naruto in awe. She had seen her granduncle perform Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, but she had never seen this one. However, she placed that thought at the back of her mind. When she heard him order the clones to do the chakra control techniques, she was wondering why he had done that, as it seemed to be pointless. The civilian boy to her left had noticed Tsunade's expression and was becoming jealous of Naruto over the attention Tsunade was giving him. Letting his anger get the better of him, he decided to call Naruto out on what he was doing. "Hey Baka, what are you doing?" he shouted, quickly looking at Tsunade to see if she was looking at him. However, when he saw she was still looking at Naruto, he let his anger blind him and ran towards Naruto with the intention of punching him. Right as his fist was about to make contact with the real Naruto who was watching his clone, he felt a sudden pain in his stomach. When he looked down, he saw Naruto with his knee in his gut. "It's not nice you someone when they're not looking. You should quit trying to be a ninja, you're not cut out for it, and by the way, she will never be interested in you." Even though Naruto knew what he said was harsh, he knew from past experience being a fanboy or fangirl was never a good thing. The boy was acting like he used to act for Sakura, and it annoyed him. When he saw the boy pass out in pain, he sighed and walked over to Tsunade, who was still amazed by the speed he used to knee the boy in the stomach. "Sorry about that, I hope you won't miss him anyway. I'm guessing you want to know why I ordered the clones to do those tasks," he continued when he saw her nod. "Well, this type of training only works for me due to my chakra levels. Basically, when a shadow clone gains knowledge and dispels, the knowledge goes back to the original. Also, I learned this technique when I was watching your granduncle. I hope you don't mind." "Amazing, that would speed up your training." "No, of course I don't mind, as long as you don't copy techniques with your sharingan. I won't have any problems." Tsunade whispering the sharingan part so only he could hear. 10 minutes later, Naruto and Tsunade were still laying down in the middle of the grass making small talk about what they wanted to do. When Tsunade mentioned medical jutsu, Naruto couldn't help but smile. However, they were interrupted by the sound of a punch. They looked over to where the sound came from and saw Jiraiya punched to the floor by Jin, who had his sharingan active. Naruto immediately stood up and rushed towards them. Jiraiya looked up at the boy that had punched him, his cold black eyes staring intensely at the Uchiha sharingan. "What the hell was that for Team?" Jiraiya shouted, getting to his feet, rubbing his cheek where he was hit. Before the smug kid could respond, there was a voice that made the Uchiha turn around. "He attacked you because he's too scared to fight anyone who's stronger than him," Naruto said, making everyone stare at him. "What makes you think you're stronger than me, loser? I'm an Uchiha," the elite Jin snapped back, getting closer to Naruto. "Why does being an Uchiha make you an elite?" "Because you have bloodline," Naruto asked, seeing Jin smirk. He knew Jin thought he was better than him due to his sharingan. However, Naruto smirked. "You want to play like that? Guess I'll have to wipe that smirk right off your face," Naruto thought. "How about a little spar, Jin, or are you too scared? Surely your sharingan will beat me," Naruto taunted. Jin, the Uchihas and few of Jin's fangirls laughed at Naruto, thinking he didn't stand a chance. Tsunade, however, was more curious. She wanted to see Naruto fight. She has seen his fully matured sharingan, but none of his techniques. "Okay, loser, I'll fight you, but no restrictions. The winner is decided by who is still standing," Jin said, getting into his fighting stance while being cheered on by his supporters. "Defeat the Baka Jin-kun. Show them why the Uchihas are the elite Jin-sama." The cries of his supporters flared Naruto's supporters. Funnily enough, it was Jiraiya that shouted the loudest. "Tear him apart, Naruto, but save me some," Jiraiya shouted, causing Naruto to smirk. "Shuriro-sa," Jiraiya, Naruto thought. As Naruto finished his thought, Jin rushed at him, trying to catch him off guard. Naruto smirked, keeping his hands at his side, standing up straight. Everyone watched as Jin jumped in the air, sharingan blazing at Naruto. Jin launched his fist back. Everyone gasped when Naruto didn't move. However, one person seemed more worried. "Naruto, watch out," Tsunade shouted, surprising everyone as this was the first time she, the blonde Senju, had worried about anyone. As Jin's punch was about to hit Naruto, he tilted his head to the side, letting the punch slide past him, surprising Jin. As Jin was about to react, he felt an immense pain in his stomach. He looked down to see Naruto's fist hitting his stomach. Jin coughed up a little bit of blood as he was sent flying back, bouncing off the floor. Evain stared in amazement as the strongest boy their age had been brought down by one punch. Tsunade, however, was remembering her first encounter with Naruto at the field, where Naruto had just stood still waiting for Jin to attack him. "He didn't need my help at all," Tsunade thought and smiled. "Give up, you can't win. You have your sharingan activated, yet you still can't beat me. Save yourself." The embarrassment, Naruto said with no emotion as he watched Jin slowly stand back up, wiping a bit of blood off his lip. "Ho-ho," Jin asked, holding his stomach where Naruto had punched him. "An Namek is bullet for speed, that is why they are so feared. However, I have yet to show you my Kekkei Genkai," Naruto said, smirking as he closed his eyes. "I don't care what your bloodline is, the sharingan is superior to all," Jin shouted, going through hand seals. Unaware, Naruto was slowly opening his eyes. "Mangekyou no Jutsu, great fireball technique," Jin shouted, making a large fireball come out of his mouth, blinding everyone so they couldn't see Naruto's eyes. Naruto saw the large fireball come towards him and went through his own hand seals suit and Sugandan water fang bullet. A large bullet of water shot out of Naruto's mouth, going straight towards the large fireball. When the two jutsu collided, everyone covered their eyes due to the wind thrashing violently in the air. When Evane opened their eyes, there was a large steam cloud covering both fighters. When the steam finally vanished, everyone's one eyes went wide. Ire was Jin Uchiha, the one who called himself the elite, the strongest academy ninja, on the floor, unconscious with Naruto standing above him, not even injured, his white bandana waving around. I guess that makes the Namikazes elites now, but then again I'm not so low to say I'm better than everyone else, Naruto said, not noticing everyone staring at him. While everyone was watching Naruto, they didn't realize Imono had rushed to them. As soon as he saw them all grouped together, he looked towards where they were looking. His eyes widened when he saw Naruto standing above an unconscious Jin. Naruto, what did you do? Imono shouted, running over to Jin to check if he was still alive. He sighed when he saw that Jin was unconscious. We had a spar and I won, Naruto answered coolly, making his way past the crowd. Ignoring the astonished looks, he made his way to Tsunade and sitting down next to her. Tsunade watched as Naruto made his way through the crowd. She stared at him in awe. She had never seen anyone humiliate Jin like that. She blushed when she saw he was looking at her. She fought down the blush and smiled. For a moment there I thought you were going to lose, Tsunade said with a smirk. I know, I heard you, I didn't think you cared so much, Naruto said, also smirking. However, once he saw her blush, he bursted out laughing. Aha, Tsunade-chan, are you blushing? Naruto said, making her turn red with rage. Tsunade stood up with an all too familiar vein pulsing on her forehead, and her face was red with rage. Baka, Tsunade shouted and punched Naruto, sending him flying. She doesn't even have super strength yet, but damn, that hurt, Naruto thought as he was flying through the air with anime tears. Tsunade smiled when she saw Naruto walk towards her again, slightly limping. That hurt, you know. Geez, where did you learn to punch like that? Naruto asked, sitting down next to her again. It's a secret, she said in a sing-song voice while smiling. She was about to say something else, but was interrupted by the sound of Imono's voice. Evrian, you can go home, your parents have news for you. Tsunade, can you stay behind please? He said in scared and upset voice. Everyone stared, walking back to their house's orphanage. As Naruto was about to stand up, he felt a hand grab his. He looked down to see Swan gripping his hand, panicking. Don't leave please, Tsunade said, not looking at him. However, he could tell she was nearly crying. Okay, he whispered while taking his gaze to where she was looking. He saw Tobirama, Hiruzen and two other people Naruto didn't recognize. One had red hair that was tied into two buns, the other had long black hair and a giant battle fan. I'm sorry, Tsunade-chan, I've got some bad news, Aga, Tobirama said. Thought he could see she recognized what was going on. It was the same with her parents. Daiji, Tsunade sobbed, still holding Naruto's hand, which didn't go unnoticed by the four standing near them. Yes, Tsunade-chan, he was killed on the way to Iwagakure to attend a peace meeting, the red-haired woman said, barely holding her tears in. Tsunade sobbed, tears spilling from her eyes. Naruto, not knowing why, grabbed Tsunade's head, pulling it to his chest, wrapping his arms around her, letting her sob into his chest as she too wrapped her arms around him. Mito, Hiruzen, Tobirama, let's leave them, the black-haired one said, getting 3 nods. Okay Madara, let's go, Tobirama said, sighing, not noticing the widening eyes of Naruto. Madara, that's him, I'm going to kill him and save everyone, Naruto thought, preparing to make his move. No kid, don't be foolish, think for 1 second, the Kyuubi roared, stopping Naruto from taking action. Why, he's right here, we could save them all, Naruto argued back. Think about it, if you attack him now they won't think you're trying to save them, he is respected in Konoha, and besides something's off, he should have used me to fight Hashirama by now, but he hasn't. Stay neutral, Naruto. The Kyuubi finished, receiving a nod from Naruto. Who did it? Naruto asked, stopping the four and having Tsunade look up from his chest. Mito, Hiruzen and Tobirama looked hesitant, but Madara was the first one to talk. It was Kakuzu, a missing nin from the waterfall village. Why? He said without any emotion. Everyone was looking at Naruto expecting an answer, however Naruto had his head lowered, so his bangs were covering his eyes. He slowly lifted his head and slowly opening his eyes, getting a gasp from Evane. Oh, what? Tobirama stuttered. Mito stood with wide eyes. Tsunade had stopped crying and had a confused look, while Madara smiled. Naruto's eyes were blood red and had a swirl in the middle of each eyes. Mangekyou sharingan, Madara said, showing a bit of emotion. Bikuzu. I'm going to kill you, Naruto said coldly, surprising everyone. However, he realized what he had just said and deactivated his sharingan. I'm sorry, I should leave, you probably have a lot of things to talk about. He looked down at Tsunade, who had let go of him. If you need anything you can come talk to me, Tsunade. Okay, he said calmly. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Tsunade said, not realizing she had added kun to his name. With that, Mito, Hiruzen, Tobirama and Tsunade walked back home to grieve. Naruto looked up into the clouds, witnessing them change from the light blue color to gray and black. The sound of thunder caused Naruto to close his eyes. It's going to be a long couple of years, Naruto thought, walking back to the direction of his apartment. Time skip 5 years. A 12-year-old boy walked down the streets Konoha waving at a few of the nice civilians who weren't complete suck-ups. The 12-year-old was currently on his way to the academy to find out who his sensei was. This 12-year-old boy was Namikaze Naruto. Naruto had changed over the last 5 years. He still wore the same type clothing, but instead of a white bandana he had a forehead protector keeping his bangs up, his hair fell past his jawline barely, and he had lost almost all of his baby fat and was shown a bit of muscle. Naruto, if he were to rank himself, was a high chunin in this body, and with his sharingan and gravity seals off he was mid-jonin. He had used the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to train faster, he had perfect chakra control, and had learned new jutsus for each element much to awe of his friends. He smiled brightly at the thought he had made great friends out of Jiraiya and Orochimaru. He had helped Jiraiya with the 3 jutsus which were needed to pass Kawarimi no Jutsu, change of body stance technique, Bunshin no Jutsu, and Henge no Jutsu. Naruto had liked Jiraiya from the start and couldn't help but laugh at his antics, but he laughed more when Tsunade punched him. Orochimaru was also one of Naruto's friends. They had become friends when Orochimaru had asked to spar with Naruto on occasions. He really was a genius, analyzing every little thing. If it wasn't for the fact he was in the same class as Naruto, he would have surely got Rookie of the Year. And finally Tswand, if anything he had bonded with her, the most she would only show Naruto her kind side, much to the displeasure of the civilian boys and Jiraiya. However, she had went back into her shell when her granduncle was killed, and he died the same way in canon, but different point in time, which ended the first ninja war. Hiruzen Sarutobi was placed as the Sandaime Hokage, much to the displeasure of Danzo. The most surprising factor to Naruto, though, was Madara had not protested to the decision and was still in the village. Mito also visited Naruto on occasion. She had taught him a few seals, some he had already known and some he hadn't, and she would often talk about the land of whirlpools, which he found interesting. As Naruto entered the classroom he saw Orochimaru sitting in the corner waiting patiently. Jiraiya was giggling and writing something on a piece of paper. Naruto looked to the other corner and saw Jin staring at him with hatred. Jin's Sharingan had not matured at all. He was taller and had longer black hair, but he hadn't changed that much, except he would never insult Naruto. Finally Naruto looked at Tsunade, who luckily had a seat next to her spare. He walked towards the chair, ignoring the glares from the civilian boys. And Tsunade will always look like she did in the manga. She smiled once she saw Naruto sit down. "Thought you weren't going to make it," Tsunade said, not looking at him. "Sorry, did you miss me?" Naruto said and smirked. "You wish," she said, smirking as well, watching the door open revealing Amono. Amono looked at the new genin in front of him, amused at how much they had grown over the past 5 years. He walked over to his desk picking up a stack of paper. "Okay Genin, I'm going to read your teams and who your sensei is going to be, so listen up. Team 1 Jin Uchiha, I'm going to skip this part. Team 7 Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru, your sensei is going to be Hiruzen Sarutobi." Amono finished looking at their faces. Orochimaru looked happy. Jiraiya was also happy that he was on the same team as Tsunade, and Tsunade frowned slightly. "Hey sensei, what about me?" shouted Naruto. "Naruto, your sensei is Uchiha Madara," Amono said, getting gasps from everyone and an angry glare from Jin. As Amono finished, the door opened revealing Madara. "Naruto, meet me on the roof." Madara finished leaving by gliding through the walls like a ghost. Naruto sighed and stood up. He disappeared in a yellow flash. Naruto appeared on the roof where he had placed a seal for the Hiraishin no Jutsu. Madara smiled and sat down. "Okay, let's start off with introductions. You go first," he said, pointing at Naruto. "Well, as you already know my name, I don't see the point in saying it. My likes are doing what's right, and my precious people, I dislike murderers and those who judge people without knowing them. My dream is to bring peace to the world." Naruto finished looking at the astonished look on Madara's face. "Isn't your turn, sensei?" Naruto asked, snapping Madara out of his thoughts. "Yeah, you're right, my bad. My name is Madara Uchiha. I like learning new thing. I have way too many dislikes, and my dream, I'm not sure." He finished getting a swear drop from Naruto. Madara stood up looking over the railing of the roof. "Listen, most of the senseis will do a pointless test. We will not. We will begin training right away, okay? Meet me at training ground 10 tomorrow at 8 AM, Saya Blondie," Madara said, warping away. Naruto hopped to the top of the building, landing perfectly on his feet as he walked down the street. He couldn't help but wonder why Madara had changed so much. He walked down the street back to his apartment to get some sleep for tomorrow. Chapter 7, Training Ground 10. Naruto walked into the training area and noticed several large trees, a small lake and loads of giant rocks. Naruto had arrived at 7:55 AM just to be ready. This was Madara after all. He still couldn't help but wonder why Madara hadn't left the village yet. As he entered the middle of the training ground he saw Madara warp right in front of him. He was wearing his original samurai outfit and still had his large battle fan on his back. "Good morning Naruto, it's good to see you're eager," Madara said, showing his Sharingan eyes. Naruto smiled at him but was inwardly seething at the fact this was the person who destroyed his life. "Hit stop, remember I hate Madara just as much as you, but look, he hasn't left the village and started causing trouble yet. Until then there is nothing you can do," the Kyuubi said, getting a sigh and nod from Naruto. However, Naruto smirked at the thought of annoying the nine-tailed fox. I think you're going soft, Naruto said, but was quickly shut up by a roar from the Kyuubi. Naruto chuckled at how easy it was to annoy the fox. Good morning, Madara-sensei, Naruto said, returning back. Madara couldn't help but smile. This boy reminded him so much of his younger brother. They were both trying to do what is right for the world. Madara himself didn't know why he had took a complete liking to the boy. Perhaps it was because he felt sorry for the kid since his family was killed, or perhaps it was because he saw a little of himself in him. Okay, Naruto, I need you to tell me something, and you have to be honest. Are you starting to lose your sight? Madara asked, startling the boy. Naruto was cursing himself for not thinking that part through, but smiled at the thought of getting out of this one. No, why, Madara-sensei? Naruto asked, trying to play dumb, but Madara quickly glanced at Naruto and his eyes widened. Naruto, are those your eyes? Madara asked, already certain about something. Damn it, no matter what I say here I'm going to sound ridiculous, right? Think, Naruto thought, while trying to think of the best lie he could. No, I didn't want to tell anyone that my brother damaged my original eyes after I killed him. A traveling medic found me and replaced my eyes with my brother's. I never realized until I woke up. I felt so ashamed. I'm sorry, Naruto said, looking down, pretending to look sad. Madara sighed. This story was the same as his own. His brother's eyes had stopped him from going blind as well, so who was he judge? It's alright, Naruto, it just means with your brother's eyes you won't go blind using your mangekyou, Madara said. Naruto nodded. Alright, today we're going to see what level you are at because I know you're higher than a genin level, so don't hold back, Madara said, getting into a fighting stance. Naruto copied his movements and got into his own fighting stance. Alright, this is a battle I can't win. He also can't use the rinnegan until my dad creates it, so it looks like I'll have to drop my gravity seals to even stand a chance, Naruto thought, while deactivating his seals, making his body feel lighter. Naruto rushed forward in an attempt to kick Madara in the face, however Madara effortlessly caught his foot and threw Naruto to the other side of the training ground. Naruto landed on his feet also effortlessly. Come on, Naruto, you're going to have to do better than that, Madara said while sinking into the ground. Naruto began to look around, waiting for Madara to pop up. Okay, where are you? Naruto thought as he began to take baby steps. The sudden sound of leaves rustling made Naruto turn around and launch a kunai. His eyes widened when he saw the kunai go through Madara and sink into the tree behind him. Shit, he knows that technique as well, Naruto thought while going through hand seals. Gakakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique, Naruto shouted, launching a giant fireball at Madara. Madara saw the giant fireball and smirked. Interesting, he's perfected the technique and he hasn't even started to use his sharingan yet. Let's see what you do now, Naruto, Madara thought while allowing the fireball to go through him. You know, that's a very annoying technique, Madara-sensei, Naruto said, pulling out two trench knives with a Hiraishin seal on. Yes, it may be annoying, but there are other annoying techniques in the world, but the question is, what are you going to do about it? Madara said, running towards Naruto. Naruto activated his sharingan and also ran at Madara. He threw one of his Hiraishin knives that Madara allowed to go through him. Just as the knife went all the way through Madara's body, Naruto disappeared in a yellow flash. Madara's sharingan eyes widened when he saw Naruto disappear. What? Madara thought, but Madara was sent flying by Naruto, who had kicked him in the back. Madara stopped himself from flying any further and landed on his feet. He turned around and faced Naruto with a small smile. Now who's the one with annoying technique? What was that anyway? I've never seen anything like it, Madara said, still surprised that Naruto had actually hit him. Of course he was holding back a lot, but it was still an amazing feat. Naruto began to think on how he could tell Madara what the technique was without giving away. It was father's technique, so when the time came his dad would still be able to create the technique. Who knows, perhaps I'll be showing my father how to do the technique, Naruto thought with a smile. It's an advanced bloodline of the Namikaze clan. It grants the user incredible speed, Naruto said, hoping that Madara would believe him. That's what it is. I thought it had something to do with the seal on the knife, Madara said, eyeing Naruto carefully. Naruto looked at his trench knife and thought. You know, I never thought of doing something like that, but then again I don't need to. These seals are just simple storage seals, Naruto said, making Madara chuckle. You are very funny, Naruto, but why don't we take this fight up a notch, Madara said while going through hand seals. Mangekyou no Jutsu, great fire majestic removal technique, Madara shouted, releasing a large firewall towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened at the sight of the large firewall. He had copied the hand seals Madara had made, but with the size of the wall, it looked like he'd never lived to test the jutsu out. No, I must try. I have too much to lose, Naruto thought as he began to send more chakra to his eyes. Naruto's eyes began to spin until eventually revealed his mangekyou sharingan. As the fire looked like it had engulfed Naruto, a giant red figure with armor, a sword and shield appeared, blocking the fire from hitting Naruto. Susanoo, Madara said, smiling. The fires began to die down around the Susanoo as it protected Naruto. Once the fires that left the area completely scorched were gone, Naruto's Susanoo dropped from a full armored warrior to one that was just bones, which finally left, just leaving Naruto, who fell to his knees panting. He looked up through his bangs when he heard the sudden sound of clapping. Impressive. I was expecting you to use your speed again to dodge, but to have used one of the mangekyou sharingan techniques, I must say I am impressed. Do you know any other mangekyou techniques? Madara asked, getting a shake of the head that indicated no. Well Naruto, you're in luck because I know all of the mangekyou sharingan techniques. First we have Susanoo, which protects the user from almost everything. Then we have Amaterasu. It is a technique that creates flames hotter than any other. It's also said that the flames will burn for 7 days and 7 nights. Then we have Tsukiyomi. It is by far the most dangerous. It doesn't do damage to the body physically, it attacks the mind, but it can also affect the user as well, so be careful if you ever use it. Okay, Madara said, looking at Naruto seriously. Naruto nodded. Finally we have Kamui. It is the most difficult technique to gain. It has the ability to warp and teleport people. Also when one has reached the highest level of Kamui, they will be able to the technique I did, which allowed weapons, jutsus and even people to go through me, Madara said, getting an astonished look from Naruto. So that's how he did it. I wonder how Kakashi-sensei achieved that level. Sasuke and Itachi cold even do that. How am I? Naruto thought, not realizing Madara was waving his hand in front of Naruto's face. Hey Naruto, Madara asked, waiting for the blonde to respond. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts and scratched the back of his head while smiling sheepishly. Madara-sensei, I was wondering, how do you know so much about the mangekyou sharingan? I mean, is there a scroll or did someone tell you? Naruto asked, surprising Madara. Yes, there is a scroll about the mangekyou sharingan, however I have hidden the scroll, as I fear the Uchiha clan would do what is required to gain the mangekyou. To this day I regret killing my best friend, but at the time I had to. It was for the good of the Uchiha, Madara said, showing a hint of sadness in his voice. He was slightly surprised that he would talk so openly about this. It was the first time since his brother. He looked at Naruto and could see him completely concentrating on him. He didn't know what it was, but there was just something about Naruto that just made him trust the young blonde. He sighed and began to continue the story. There is also a stage above the mangekyou which me and you have, the eternal mangekyou sharingan, but to obtain it comes at an even greater price. You must take the eyes of your brothers. Izuna, he was my younger brother, strong, talented and kind. We both had obtained the mangekyou for the good of the clan, to keep us at the top. If you were not at the top your clan would be slaughtered. I was the head of the Uchiha clan, but the disadvantage of the mangekyou sharingan is it leaves you blind over time. It's a punishment I received. However, with me being as weak as I was at the time, we were vulnerable. We were on the verge of being destroyed by other clans. Madara sighed as he looked into the air, sorrow and regret in his eyes. Then Izuna came to me offering his eyes. I refused at first, but we began to lose more Uchiha every day. I took his eyes, at the cost of my brother's life. After that I destroyed anyone who threatened the Uchiha clan. We were only rivaled by the Senju clan, however eventually the clans joined together and created villages. The Uchiha clan formed Konoha with the Senju clan, however it was a Senju that was nominated to be the leader. It frustrated me at first. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was actually planning on leaving the village, but I needed something to believe in. Then you came. For the first time in years I had found purpose again. You remind me so much of myself and Izuna, but you have far more potential than either of us. Madara finished, looking at a wide-eyed Naruto. Naruto listened to Madara's story. It was unbelievable that this was the same Madara that had defected from Konoha and wanted to put the world into an infinite Tsukiyomi. Even then he wanted peace, but his mind was warped by the Rakuto Sennin into believing that he needed all the tailed beasts. I must help him. He nearly let the Rakuto Sennin control me when I lost of everything, Naruto thought before smiling. Well, as your student I promise to make you proud, Naruto said, giving Madara a thumbs up. Madara smiled and started chuckling, then eventually started laughing. Ahahaha, I'm sure you will, narrate. I'm sure you will, Madara said, turning towards the entrance on the training ground and finding an Uchiha Jounin and 3 genin. Naruto immediately recognized Jin, who was smirking. Madara-sama, I'm sorry, I did not realize you and your apprentice were training here. We will leave immediately, the Uchiha Jounin said, wiping the smirk of Jin's face. What? Why do we have to leave? There are no more empty training grounds, Jin said, making Madara frown. Know your place, Genin, Madara said, making Jin back down straight away. Madara-sama, even though Jin did speak out of line, what he said was true. There are no empty training grounds available. Can we share the training ground with you? The Uchiha Jounin asked. Sure, just stay out of mine and Naruto's way, Madara said, getting a nod from the Jounin. Of course, Madara-sama, the Jounin said, then turning to Naruto, it was good to finally meet you, Naruto-sama. Jin looked on in shock. His Jounin sensei saw Naruto as his superior. What did that make him? No, this can't be happening. That Lasari did Madara-sama choose him? I am the elite genius of the Uchiha clan, Jin thought, his anger flaring. Madara-sama, why did you pick him to be your apprentice? He's a nobody, his clan is so weak they got wiped out. Why didn't you pick someone from the Uchiha clan to train? Jin asked. The Uchiha Jounin was about to yell at Jin, but was stopped by the sound of Madara's voice. You dare speak to me and my apprentice like that? Just so you know, the reason the Namikaze clan are mostly wiped out is because they were used as frontline soldiers in the war. Their speed had no rival. And for your information, Naruto is related to the Uchiha clan. He has achieved a fully matured sharingan. Well, you have not, Madara said coldly, enjoying the look of shock on Jin's face. Jin looked at Naruto, anger burning in his cold black eyes. He has the sharingan. Was he even trying when we battled? How dare he fool me? I'm an elite, I'll show him. You loser, Jin said, pointing at Naruto. Fight me. Everyone raised their eyebrows at Jin. Alright, I'm surprised though, especially after the beating I gave you last time, Naruto said, smiling and ignoring the look of complete hatred Jin was giving him. No, Madara said, surprising everyone. This fight is unfair. It will be you four, Madara said, while pointing at Team 1 vs Naruto. Madara finished getting wide eyes from everyone. Madara-sama, are you sure that is wise? No disrespect to Naruto-sama, but isn't that a little much, the Uchiha Jounin said. No, just do it, Madara said, getting a nod from the Jounin. Naruto got into a fighting position, ignoring the fact he was still exhausted from his fight with Madara. The Uchiha Jounin, Jin and his two teammates, also got into a fighting position. However, Jin in his rage against Naruto charged head on, his sharingan blazing to life. His two teammates quickly followed, leaving the Jounin to sigh at his team's foolishness. I'll defeat you, Namikaze, and show everyone you're not so great, Jin said, going through hand seals. The Kakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique. Naruto almost laughed the size of the furball Jin had made. However, knowing not to underestimate anything, he went through a number of hand seals. Tsuruiden no Jutsu, water dragon projectile technique, Naruto shouted, suddenly forming a large water dragon that flew towards the fireball. As soon as both justice collided, the fireball completely vanished, letting the water dragon fly towards Jin and his teammates, who was completely startled that Jin's best jutsu had been so easily defeated. When the water dragon hit Jin in the chest, he was sent flying back along with his two teammates. However, before they hit something causing further damage to themselves, the Jounin sensei had quickly caught them and placed their unconscious bodies on the floor. Impressive, Naruto-sama, it seems I am not to underestimate you, the Jounin said, running at Naruto. Naruto saw the Jounin sprint towards him. Naruto noticed the fully matured sharingan active in the Jounin's eye and cursed. Damn, I barely survived against Madara-sensei, and he was holding back a lot. This Jounin doesn't seem to be holding back one little bit, Naruto thought, while activating his fully matured sharingan and watched the chakra pattern the Jounin had so he could anticipate his next movements. The Jounin went to land a punch on Naruto, who easily caught the punch and used it to launch himself in the air and landing behind the man. Naruto went to swipe his feet but went unsuccessful as the Jounin jumped in the air and roundhouse kicked Naruto, sending him flying back. Naruto quickly caught himself and then backflipped into a standing position. Naruto pulled out one of his trench knife and began to channel wind chakra towards it. The Uchiha Jounin had to admit Naruto was good high Chunin level at least. His sharingan eyes widened when he saw the trench knife glow blue. Through his sharingan eyes he saw the wind chakra Naruto was using, and in one word, he was amazed that Naruto knew something only Jounins should know. Madara also was shocked when he saw the blade was enhanced with wind chakra. He knew Naruto was tired from their spar, and honestly he thought Naruto would never beat the Jounin. However, the boy was surprising him more and more. Naruto launched the trench knife towards the Jounin at an incredible speed. The Jounin was just able to move out of the way, but was caught off guard by the little cut he had received on his cheek. Impressive, Naruto-sama. I understand why Madara-sama picked you, the Jounin said, wiping the blood of his cheek. However, I will show you why I am a Jounin, the Uchiha said, running towards Naruto at full speed. Should his speed is no way near mine was in my adult body, but in this body, I'm not sure I'll be able to dodge. Naruto thought while watching the Jounin get closer. The Jounin jumped in the air a couple of meters away from Naruto and went through a selection of hand seals. Daryuuka no Jutsu, great dragon fire technique, the Jounin shouted, releasing 3 giant fire dragons out towards Naruto. Naruto saw the hand seals the Jounin went through and quickly copied them. He gasped when he realized what he was doing. However, no. I'm becoming a jutsu thief. No, as long as it's not an original technique it won't bother me. The sharingan is nothing but a tool. Naruto, however, unable to move due to the speed of the dragons, did the only thing he could think of doing. He sent as much chakra as he could to his eyes. However, instead of staying on his mangekyou sharingan, the red background suddenly started to go purple and his black swirl in the middle turned into a little black hole with rings around it. Shinra Tensei, divine judgment, Naruto shouted, blowing everything around him away. The fire dragons disappeared instantly under the pressure. The Jounin was also sent back, bouncing off the floor a few times before finally falling on the floor unconscious. Madara stood there wide-eyed at what he was seeing. Naruto's eyes had changed yet again. The rinnegan, but how and was that the power the rinnegan? That was just a glimpse of the rinnegan. If Naruto could gain complete control, he would be the most powerful shinobi ever, and I would be the one who trained him. I knew there was more to you, Naruto, but I never knew it would be this, Madara thought, while looking at the panting Naruto who was barely conscious. Naruto, do you know what that was? Madara asked, picking up the Jounin and walking towards Naruto. Naruto looked up, his rinnegan eyes still active. He could see different chakra wavelengths and some barrier seals. Naruto slowly looked towards Madara, who was walking towards him, and shook his head. No sensei, Naruto lied. He knew it was the rinnegan, but truthfully he didn't know that much about it himself. Madara smiled and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Once he had put the jounin he was carrying down. Let's take these 4 to the hospital, then we will go see Hokage-sama about this. Who knows, you might get to see your girlfriend, Madara teased, making Naruto blush. I have no idea what or who you are on about, Naruto said, finally standing up and picking up his trench knife and putting it in its holder. Madara laughed at Naruto before grabbing the 4 unconscious and teleporting away. After several seconds of waiting, Madara appeared again and motioned Naruto to follow, which he did immediately. As Naruto and Madara walked through the village, Naruto couldn't help but notice how friendly Madara was to the civilians. As they were about to reach the Hokage's training ground, Madara stopped outside Riiro's. Naruto looked at Madara in confusion and followed him into the store. When Madara and Naruto walked in, they noticed the store was practically empty. Madara turned to Naruto. Naruto, I'm going to allow you to pick anything from the store, and I will get it for you. Think of it as a present that symbolizes you are my student, Madara said, smiling when he saw Naruto nod and walk over to the counter. Ah, good day, Riiro-san, Naruto said, smiling at the old man behind the counter. Riiro smiled when he saw it was Naruto. Hello, Naruto-san, it's good to see you again. I trust the knives I gave you work well, Riiro said as he examined the trench knives again. Yes, they are perfect. I was wondering, however, Riiro-san, if you had anything new, and Naruto asked, getting a large grin from Riiro. Actually, Naruto, I have. Ever since you showed me where to get the metal that allows chakra to flow it, I finally made my first sword with the stuff here. Look, Riiro said, while handing Naruto his trench knives back and pulling out a large box. When Riiro removed the lid of the box, he picked the sword up and unsheathed it and gave it to Naruto. The sword was a thin blade with a simple blue handle. It was light but strong, and just imagine the sword Sasuke had when Team 7 met him at Orochimaru's base. Naruto channeled wind chakra into the blade and was amazed when the blade was immediately surrounded by wind chakra. He gave it a practice swing and was again amazed when a heavy gust of wind blew around the store. Madara walked over to Naruto and smiled when he saw he had already picked what he wanted. So Naruto, thinking of picking up Kenjutsu, I must say, not a bad blade, an excellent choice, especially when you become famous, Madara said, giving Riiro a slip of paper. Riiro looked at the slip of paper and became wide-eyed. There was certainly enough to pay for the sword, well, about 20 swords to be precise. Thank you, Riiro-san, Naruto shouted, strapping the sword around his waist so it was facing his back. Riiro could only nod as he watched Madara and Naruto walk out of the shop. And if Naruto becomes famous, then so will the sword. Then everyone will come to me for business, Riiro ended his thought while chuckling madly. Naruto and Madara walked into training ground 7. Madara's eyes still indicated he had his sharingans active. Naruto wondered how he could keep them on for so long, but decided to just leave it. They both heard the sound of fighting and were surprised to see Tsunade, Jiraiya and Orochimaru still fighting Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. Ah, so these are your brats, monkey boy, Madara said, smirking at the sight of Hiruzen training 3 genin. Good to see you again, Madara-sama, not that I don't mind, but why are you here? Don't you have an apprentice to train? Hiruzen asked, knocking the 3 genin down effortlessly. I have some information you might find interesting, Hokage-sama, but it is best you gather the council, Madara said, then looking at his student. You can have the rest of the day off, but tomorrow we will continue with our training and we will start doing some missions. Madara finished walking over towards Hiruzen while Naruto walked over to the 3 down genins and smiled. Hard to believe these 3 are going to be the legendary Sannin. Naruto smiled as he saw the 3 genins started to stir. Are you 3 just going to lay there all day? Naruto said while poking Jiraiya and Tsunade in the head while Orochimaru was chuckling as he stood up. Naruto, if you poke me in the head one more time, I'm going to hit you again, Tsunade said while sitting up and giving an all too familiar smile. Naruto paled and backed off and watched Jiraiya stand up. Hiruzen looked at his students' interaction with Naruto and smiled. He had just finished the bell test with his students and began training them. Of course, the 3 of them could never get along. Jiraiya would insult Orochimaru for being better than him, while Orochimaru also insulted Jiraiya for being an idiot. Tsunade, however, usually split the 2 up before they began to fight, and now it looked like Naruto could get along with just about anyone. Okay, you 3, I'm off, you can have the rest of the day off, but I want you here in the morning at 6, and no, not 7, Jiraiya-kun, Hiruzen said, glaring slightly at Jiraiya, who nodded in acceptance. Okay, let's go, Madara said, teleporting away from the training ground, closely followed by Hiruzen, who shunshined out of there. So what are you 3 going to do now? Naruto asked, already regretting the question when Jiraiya stood up with a notepad. I'm going to do a little research, Jiraiya said, winking at Naruto. Naruto facepalmed at Jiraiya's antics, but smiled inwardly. Baka, Tsunade said, picking Jiraiya up by his collar. Stop being perverted, Tsunade finished by punching Jiraiya considerably far, considering she hadn't perfected her chakra control technique. How about you, Orochimaru? Naruto asked. Well, I was going to do some training, but it looks like I'll go help the idiot to the hospital. See you later. Orochimaru ran towards Jiraiya's prone body and put an arm around his shoulder. They're secretly friends, aren't they? Naruto asked, getting a giggle from Tsunade. Yeah, they made a secret pact to make it look like they hate each other to put enemies off taking one of them hostage, Tsunade said, looking at Naruto, but quickly noticed the sword around Naruto's waist. Where did you get that sword, Naruto? Tsunade asked, watching Naruto unsheath the blade. Ah, this thing Madara-sensei bought me it as a gift, Naruto said, trying not to give too much away about the blade. Tsunade looked at Naruto with narrowed eyes. She was smart enough to tell when Naruto was not telling her anything, but decided to leave it anyway. Well, since we have the day off, want to go train at Senju compound? Tsunade asked, slightly blushing. Naruto smiled at Tsunade. He still found it funny to see Tsunade blush. He was glad to see she was not like Sakura and consistently stalked someone so they would go out on a date. Okay, Tsunade-chan, Naruto said while smiling, especially when he saw her face turn red at the suffix. As Naruto and Tsunade walked through the compound, he couldn't help but notice how empty the place seemed. He looked towards Tsunade and could also see her frowning. So this is what Tsunade meant when she said she had lost too much in Konoha, maybe Dan and Nawaki were the last straw. Speaking of Nawaki, Naruto thought with a smile as he saw the 7-year-old run towards him with Mito. Nawaki had light brown spiky hair and could be seen with 2 little oval red marks on each cheek. Oh, thank God you're back, Tsunade-chan. I need you to look after Nawaki-chan while I go to a meeting, Mito said, then turning to Naruto. Oh, hello Naruto-kun, you seem to be getting taller every day, Mito said. Naruto gave her a small smile and watched her shunshin away. Tsunade-nichan, are you and Naruto Nyasan going to teach me some cool jutsus now? Nawaki asked, hope in his eyes. Tsunade sighed at her younger brother. He was always asking her or Naruto to teach him. Naruto, however, smiled at Nawaki. The young Senju was so carefree it reminded Naruto of how he used to be. Nawaki even had the same dream as the old Naruto to become Hokage. Now that I'm here, Nawaki, I promise you won't die like last time, Naruto thought while watching the hyperactive boy pull both his and Tsunade's hand to the training ground. Nawaki-chan, before I decide to teach you anything, why don't you show me what you have learned at the academy so far, Naruto said, getting a groan from Nawaki. But Nias and Thady never show us anything cool, all we do is practice throwing kunai and shuriken, Nawaki said, hoping to hide the fact he sucked at throwing exercises. Show me, Naruto said, smiling, knowing what Nawaki was hiding, while Tsunade on the other hand was wondering why Nawaki was being so shy to show Naruto something. Usually her brother was always showing Naruto the cool things he had learned. As the 3 of them made it to the training ground, Naruto watched Nawaki hesitantly pull some shurikens out and proceeded to concentrate on the practice dummy up ahead. When Nawaki threw all his shurikens, he lowered his head in shame when he noticed all but one of his shuriken missed. You know, in order to become Hokage you need to be able to throw straight, Naruto said seriously. Nawaki turned around, tears in his eyes, crushed over the fact Naruto would say that. Tsunade was about to shout at Naruto for putting her brother down, but was stopped when she saw the smirk growing on Naruto's face. So looks like I'll have to teach you how, then I will show you something cool. Okay, Naruto finished, but before he could blink Nawaki had tackled him into a hug while crying. Thank you, Nyasan, thank you, Nawaki cried into Naruto's chest, unaware of the fact Tsunade was smiling. Well, while you train Nawaki, I'm going to read some medical jutsu books, Tsunade said, leaving Naruto and Nawaki in the training ground. The council members were all gathered around the table, some slightly angry at the fact they were called out. Why were we called out, Hokage-sama? A civilian asked. Well, if you would listen for 5 minutes I'll tell you, Hiruzen said, slightly angry at the disrespect the civilians showed. I believe I'll take other now, Hokage-sama, Madara said, getting a nod from Hiruzen. Earlier on today while I was training my apprentice he unlocked the rinnegan. Madara let the news sink in, getting gasps from all the ninjas. So what? I mean, it can't be that special, I'm sure the sharingan is superior, screeched a pink-haired woman. Madara narrowed his eyes at the civilians and their stupidity. The rinnegan is the dijutsu that the sage of the 6 paths used. It is in Uzumaki bloodline. Naruto is unable to control the rinnegan yet, but from what I have seen he was able to defeat a jounin with just a glimpse of the rinnegan's power. So I have asked Hokage-sama to call this meeting to inform everyone I will be taking Naruto out of the village for a couple of years after he becomes chunin, so he can control the rinnegan. Everyone looked shocked at the fact there was a bloodline that strong. The council agreed by nodding their head. Training a bloodline like that outside the village would be extremely useful, especially if something were to go wrong and the rinnegan accidentally destroyed half the village. As everyone left no one noticed Danzo's smirk. And Uzumaki bloodline, they could become a threat. Chapter 8. In the Senju compound the sound of a heavily panting Nawaki could be heard as the young boy had been training with Naruto all day. Naruto had spent hours showing Nawaki how to throw kunais and shuriken. They had spent a little time sparring, however it was more of a test to see if Nawaki could actually land a hit. Nawaki had finally fell over exhausted. No fair, Nai-san, I cold even land a hit on you, Nawaki complained while laying on his back panting. Naruto smiled while ruffling Nawaki's hair. Oh come on, you nearly had me a few times. You've got to remember I've been doing this longer than you have, but I will say you are extremely good for your age, Naruto said, getting laughing when he saw Nawaki quickly sit up. Really nice, and you think I'm good? I can't wait to tell everyone, Nawaki said excitedly, getting a surprised look from Naruto. Nawaki caught onto Naruto looking at him surprised and blushed. Well, it's just everyone talks about how cool you are, even the teachers talk about how you are a genius. It's just, well, I want that type of respect, Nawaki said looking down. Naruto smiled at the young Senju. It was clear Nawaki wanted to be like him. Well Nawaki, if you want to be a genius, then be the genius of hard work, train every day, and I have no doubts you will surpass any natural-born genius, Naruto laughed when he saw Nawaki jump up with fire in his eyes. Alright Nai-san, it's time to spar again. Naruto stood up smiling at Nawaki's enthusiasm. Okay Nawaki-chan, let's see what you've got. Naruto slowly unsheathed his sword as he watched Nawaki throw some shuriken. Good job, I showed him how to throw properly, Naruto thought, deflecting the shuriken effortlessly. Nawaki ran at Naruto hoping to land a punch on Naruto, however Naruto stopped the punch with one finger and pushed it out of the way. Come on Nawaki, I know you can do better than that, Naruto said, sidestepping a kick aimed for his chest. Stay still and fight Nai-san, Nawaki said, slightly annoyed. Naruto was toying with him, shrugging. Naruto disappeared behind Nawaki and hit him in the back of the head with the blunt end of the sword, swiftly knocking Nawaki out. You did good today, Nawaki, Naruto said, picking up Nawaki and walking towards the house. As Naruto entered the house with the still unconscious Nawaki in his hands, he began to sweat when he saw Tsunade tapping her foot on the floor. What did you do to him, Naruto? Tsunade asked, giving Naruto an all-too-familiar smile, making him panic. We were sparring, and Naruto was cut off by Mito placing a hand on his shoulder. Well, it seems Nawaki-chan has overworked himself against that boy. He's so desperate to catch up to you, Naruto-kun, Mito said, smiling at her grandson. Naruto also smiled as he put Nawaki down on the sofa. Yeah, the little squirt is really determined. Tsunade walked over to Nawaki, pushed a bit of hair out of his eyes. Yeah, but I think he's more stubborn than anything, Tsunade said. So anyway, what were you reading, Tsunade? Well, me and Nawaki were training, Naruto asked, sitting down on another chair. Tsunade's face brightened up, excited at her newfound hobby. Wait there, I'll show you, she said, running upstairs, making Naruto face a fault and Mito sigh. So Naruto-kun, I hear you've gotten another bloodline. You're quite the talk of the council meetings these days, Mito said, smiling when she saw Naruto sigh. Great, another reason to be praised, Naruto said sarcastically. You want to see it? Naruto asked, getting a nod from Mito. Naruto's eyes immediately changed from blue to red and then finally stopped at purple with silver rings. Mito gasped at the sight of the rinnegan. So this is the famous Dijutsu. I must say I've never met an Uzumaki who has had it before, Mito asked curiously. Maybe it awakens when the user is under too much stress like the sharingan, Naruto answered, getting an annoyed grunt from the Kyuubi. I already told you that, you damn copycat, the Kyuubi muttered before going back to sleep. If that's the case, we should keep this between ourselves. I'm sure you don't want to be used as a breeding machine, Mito said, getting a serious nod, knowing some of the power-hungry fools in the village. They continued to talk about the powers of the rinnegan, but were interrupted by a loud crash at the stairs. Both Uzumaki looked towards the stairs to see Tsunade piled under tons of books. Picking up one of the books that had landed near him, Naruto read the front cover. Medical ninjutsu for beginners, interesting. I'm impressed you need really good chakra control to do medical jutsu, Naruto said, getting a surprised look from Tsunade. Yeah, but how did you know? Tsunade asked, curious as to how Naruto knew about medical ninjutsu. Well, my one-chan works at the hospital and she had really good chakra control, Naruto answered, but was suddenly lifted up by his collar by Tsunade. Really, you know someone who works at the hospital? Do you reckon she'll teach me some stuff? Tsunade asked hopefully. Yeah, probably, Naruto answered, but was suddenly crushed into a hug by Tsunade, making him blush. Tsunade also began to blush when she had realized the position she was in and immediately backed off, stuttering apologies. After several hours of talking, Naruto had decided it was time for him to go home, saying his farewells to the three. Promise you'll come back again, Nai-san, Nawaki asked. He was always sad when Naruto would leave. It was also the fact that no one would believe him that he knew Naruto. Smiling at the young boy, Naruto crouched down, ruffling Nawaki's hair. Naruto tapped his own wrist. Suddenly a poof of smoke appeared. Once the smoke had disappeared, revealing a set of weights, Naruto passed them to the young boy. He had hidden a Hiraishin seal onto them so he could transport to Nawaki whenever. Why are you giving me these? Nawaki asked with tears in his eyes. Naruto smiled and nodded. He was utterly taken back by the hug Nawaki had give him, but smiled nonetheless. Standing up, Naruto faced Mito and Tsunade. Bye Mito Bachan, Swan-chan, Naruto said, quickly running away to avoid a beating from Mito. That boy, Mito smirked. She then took a look at her granddaughter, who had a longing look written clearly across her face. Don't worry, you'll see your boyfriend again, Tsunade-chan, Mito said, smirking at her granddaughter. Tsunade turned, blushed bright red and ran off shouting Aba-chan. Naruto and Numi's apartment. Naruto walked into the apartment he had lived in ever since he had traveled back in time. As he walked into the front room, he noticed Numi wearing a thin nightgown, smirking slightly at his One-chan. Naruto walked towards one of the other chairs in the room and sat down and smiled. "Hello One-chan Imono-sensei," Naruto said, chuckling at Numi's reaction. Slowly Imono raised his head from behind the chair Numi was sitting on. Naruto laughed at both Numi and Imono's reaction. He had known they had been going out ever since Naruto had put Jin in the hospital. During one of the times, Jin thought he could beat Naruto when he was off guard. "Please One-chan, I'm not an idiot, as long as Imono-sensei doesn't hurt you I'll let him live," Naruto said, chuckling, making Imono gulp. However, Numi hit Naruto over the head. "Don't play overprotective brother on me Naru-chan," Numi said, causing Naruto to nod in fear. As powerful as he was, Numi always scared Naruto. Naruto stood up smiling. "Okay One-chan." Naruto suddenly became nervous. One-chan, I think it's time for me to move out." Numi suddenly became serious. "Why? You don't have to Naru-chan," Numi asked. She didn't want Naruto to move out, but knew he had his own life to live. "Well, I think it's time I moved into the Namikaze compound," Naruto said, saddened by Numi's sad face. "Hey, don't worry, this way Imono-sensei can move in with you, and it's not like I won't see you again. I'll come visit," Naruto said, making Numi smile a little. "You promise?" Numi asked. "Hi, it's a promise and I never break my promises." Naruto went over and hugged Numi, which she immediately returned. Once Naruto let go, he walked over to Imono, who had his top off and reached his hand out. Imono was uncertain, but reached his hand out as well, meeting in a handshake. "I'm leaving my One-chans with you Imono-sensei, look after her," Naruto said, getting a smile and a nod from the academy teacher. "Alright, I'm going to bed. I'll start packing my stuff. Please keep it down and don't go making me an uncle already," Naruto said, finishing the last part by running into his room, ignoring the thump on his door courtesy of an extremely angry Numi. 2 weeks later, Naruto was storming around the village with a very amused Madara. Naruto ignored the looks he was getting from the villagers, as right now he did not care. "Stupid D-rank missions," Naruto muttered under his breath, with only Madara hearing it. Madara let out a small laugh. Over the last 2 weeks, Madara had been training Naruto in mostly fire jutsus, but was also beginning to teach him how to use some of the mangekyou techniques, but right now he found it amusing that his apprentice was moaning over doing simple D-rank missions. However, Naruto also found a way out of that as well. "Well, almost. Hey, stop moaning, you're not even doing the slave work your clones are," Madara said as they entered the Hokage's tower. "Yeah, but I still get all of their memories. Do you know how annoying it is to get a memory about painting a fence or walking a dojo? So boring," Naruto whined, getting a small chuckle from Madara. "Well, you have done a fair few. Maybe we could go pick up a C rank. Amusing as it is to watch you complain, I am getting a little bored as well," Madara said. "Yeah, I guess a C rank will do for now, but I was talking more about B and A rank missions," Naruto said, getting a sigh from Madara. "No matter how strong you are, your rank is still genin, so the monkey brat won't let you take anything higher than a C rank. Don't worry though, I have recommended you for the Chunin exams, and I'm certain you'll be promoted," Madara said, opening the door to Hokage's room. Once Naruto and Madara entered the room, they immediately sweat dropped as there sat Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, doing paperwork, ignoring the fact his genin were wrestling. Jiraiya and Orochimaru both had each other in a headlock, while Tsunade was hitting both of them on the head. "Old man?" Naruto asked, making the occupants of the room look at him. "I'm not that old, damn it," Hiruzen answered. He didn't mind Naruto not calling Hokage-sama, like most people did. It was refreshing. He also knew it was Naruto's way of showing respect. "Ah yes, Naruto-kun, what can I do for you?" And Madara-sama, Hiruzen asked, happy he had something to keep paperwork off his mind. Madara stepping in front of Naruto and turning on his professional mode. "Yes, Hokage-sama, we came to request a C-rank mission," Madara said, surprising the 3 genin on the floor and the Hokage. Hiruzen began to look through files on his desk, stopping and pulling one. He began to read the paper in front of him. "I'm surprised you haven't come for a C-rank mission earlier. You have certainly done enough D ranks." 211, that's impressive considering, Hiruzen said, getting surprised looks from his 3 genin. However, Naruto glared angrily at Madara over the fact it was Madara who told him he hadn't done enough D ranks. "Ah yes, here's a mission for you. Your mission is to protect a small village from a group of bandits. However, you will also be taking another team with Yami team to be precise, since I can't get out of the office often, and you are the only person I would trust with my genin team." Madara-sama. Madara nodded. Jiraiya began to jump up and down, excited he was going to be doing a C rank. Orochimaru was also excited, but didn't show it, and Tsunade, well, she was just as excited as Jiraiya. Hiruzen threw a scroll to Madara in which he caught effortlessly. He took a quick glance at the scroll and placed it in one of his pouches. "Okay, meet me at the north gate in 1 hour and don't be late," Madara said, warping away, leaving 3 scared genin and 1 smirking. "I have so got to learn that," Naruto said mostly to himself. "Yeah, it'd be able to get some good research done with that technique," Jiraiya said, making Naruto smile. However, Tsunade did not find as funny and punched Jiraiya in the head. "Be quiet, pervert," Tsunade shouted at the downed Jiraiya, making Naruto laugh and Orochimaru and Hiruzen sigh. "Okay, you four, you have 1 hour before you have to go, why don't you go get packed and do some training?" Hiruzen asked, hoping to get them to go. All the genins nodded. Naruto looked over to the 3 genins with a smirk. "I'm going to be at training ground 7 if any you want to spar, but I can understand if you're too chicken and don't want to show up," Naruto said, disappearing in a yellow flash. "I'm so going to kick his ass," Jiraiya shouted before running out of the room. Tsunade turned around but sighed once she saw Orochimaru had already followed Jiraiya. "Them two don't realize Naruto-kun wanted them to come after him, idiots," Tsunade said, not realizing she had added the kun suffix. "So it's Naruto-kun now, is it, Tsunade-chan?" Hiruzen chuckled once he saw Tsunade run out shouting pervert. Training ground 7. Naruto had already packed all of his essentials into one scroll and was now sitting cross-legged on top of the water in the middle of training ground 7. He smiled when he felt 3 chakra signatures try to sneak up on him. Standing up slowly, Naruto unsheathed his sword slowly and began to channel Raiden chakra into it, surprising the 3 genin. Jiraiya being Jiraiya jumped out hoping to land a kick on Naruto's side, stepping it effortlessly. Naruto tapped Jiraiya's leg with the blunt end of the sword, electrocuting him. Jiraiya slowly began to sink in the water. Seeing fire teammate defeated, both Tsunade and Orochimaru jumped out, hoping to land a kick on Naruto, backflipped, making Tsunade and Orochimaru narrowly miss each other. Naruto was caught off guard however, when Jiraiya appeared from underneath the water, attempting to land an uppercut on Naruto. Smiling at Jiraiya's attempt, Naruto leaned his head back, narrowly missing the blow. Thinking fast, Naruto kicked Jiraiya in the stomach, sending him skidding across the water near Tsunade and Orochimaru. The 3 genin slightly out of breath. Silently they all nodded to each other and stopped flowing chakra to their feet and allowed their bodies to fall into the water. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto sheathed his sword and stood up straight. Closing his eyes, Naruto began to use his other senses. A sudden sound of the water splitting made Naruto sidestep, avoiding a kick that was aimed at his chest courtesy of Tsunade. Opening his eyes, Naruto smirked at Tsunade when he saw her stunned expression. Turning around, he saw Orochimaru and Jiraiya appear from underneath the water with stunned expressions also. "What? You didn't expect me to always rely on my eyes," Naruto said, getting into a fighting stance. "Prepare yourself." Naruto disappeared, making the wind pick up, causing the 3 genin to close their eyes. As Orochimaru, Jiraiya and Tsunade opened their eyes, they were surprised to see Naruto behind them in a crouching position with his sword out. They were about to attack, but were stopped by the sound of Naruto's voice. "I win, check your necks," Naruto said, still in the same position. The other 3 checked their necks and widened their eyes when they felt a little bit of blood. It was nothing more than a small cut, but it was enough to show them that Naruto could have killed them. "You're all good, probably the best teamwork I've seen, but I saw through all your strategies. It was nothing but luck that stopped me from falling into your wire trap at the start. You took a risk. If I had blocked you, the wire would have tied around me. However, when I jumped out of the way, I stopped the plan. But nice try, definitely Chunin level planning and strength," Naruto said, making them smile. The 4 genin went to the side of the river and laid on the grass, just looking at the clouds. They still had 20 minutes before they had to meet Madara. "So any of you started to learn elemental manipulation yet?" Naruto asked, getting curious looks from the 3. They of course knew what the elements were, but what they didn't know is what element they had. "What element do you have, Naruto-kun?" Orochimaru asked, curious to find any advantage he could have over Naruto. Naruto smiled and raised his hand with all his finger and thumb extended. "I have all 5 due to my bloodline. Well, actually I have 6 if you count gravity as 1," Naruto said, getting wide eyes from the 3. "What bloodline do you have?" Jiraiya asked, extremely interested in what type of bloodline could give you that many elemental advantages. Naruto proceeded to tell the 3 about the rinnegan and some of its advantages. North Gate. Naruto and the other 3 genin were waiting for Madara at the North Gate. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru all had their backpacks on while Naruto just had a scroll. Naruto was practicing his mangekyou sharingan technique, the kamui. He had been practicing for several weeks. The best he could do, however, was to warp a small rock away. Tsunade was practicing punching a tree, leaving noticeable marks proving she was beginning to perfect her chakra control. Jiraiya was sitting in the shade sleeping, while Orochimaru was reading a book on elemental jutsus. The sudden appearance of Madara warping in front of them made them all look up, well, except for Jiraiya. Madara gained a tick mark on his head when he saw Jiraiya asleep and threw a rock at Jiraiya, hitting him directly on the forehead where his height was. Naruto laughed at the sight of Jiraiya, muttering something about not being able to sleep without rocks being thrown at him. "Alright, the village is a day's travel, so be prepared for anything when we get there," Madara said, getting nods from the 3. Immediately they all jumped into the trees. "So Madara-sensei, am I going to be in the Chunin exams?" Naruto asked, eagerly, earning raised eyebrows from everyone. Madara chuckled, however, "Yes you are, but the exams will be held in Iwagakure and they aren't known for their kindness," Madara said, sighing when his apprentice completely ignored the warning and was more bothered about the fact he was entered into the Chunin exams. Madara looked at the other 3 genin. You three will probably be in it as well, being trained by the Hokage it will get a lot of important people to come, and Konoha will probably send their best genin, Madara said, getting smirks from the three. After several hours of traveling, Madara turned to see that even though the four genins were not showing it, he could tell that they were tired, deciding it was time for a rest. He stopped making the genin stop. Naruto was cursing his younger body. His old body could have traveled this without breaking a sweat, yet here he was tired. Looking over at the other three, he could tell they were exhausted. Alright, we're going to set up camp here tonight. We'll make it to the village first thing in the morning. We'll also take turns in watching the camp. Naruto, you're first, then Tsunade, then Orochimaru, and finally Jiraiya. Okay, Madara said, getting nods. As everyone went into their tent, Naruto jumped onto the branch hovering above the camp and sat there. He turned suddenly at the presence of Tsunade, who sat down next to him, smiling and slightly blushing when she laid her head on his shoulder. "And sleep, huh?" Naruto asked, getting a slow nod from Tsunade. Naruto sighed. The two of them sat there for a good 20 minutes before Tsunade started talking. "Naruto, can you tell me about your life before you came to the village?" Tsunade asked, looking at Naruto's eyes. Naruto panicked slightly but was calmed down by the sound of the Kyuubi. "Just tell her a lie, you idiot," the Kyuubi said, getting a mental nod from Naruto. "Well, me life was not entirely bad before my brother killed my family. I mean, there was one point we were like best friends, you know, do training and stuff, but I still miss him, even though he did become a bit of a psychopath," Naruto said, giggling, remembering Sasuke and all the time they had spent together. "My mother, she was scary but also very caring." Naruto thought fondly of Kushina. "I remember this story she told me about when she was younger and other boys used to pick on her because she had red hair and round face. They used to call her Tomato," Naruto said, chuckling along with Tsunade continuing his story. Naruto swiped one of his bangs away from his eyes. "However, when I said my mother was scary, I mean the boys never called her Tomato again after she squashed them." Naruto then began to think about his father. It was weird to think that his parents were not even born yet, but it was also a nice feeling as it meant he would get to meet them, even save them. "My father, well, he was strong. I remember this one time when we were training and every time I'd try land a hit on him, he would just move and humiliate me and teach me a lesson at the same time." Naruto smiled at the thought of his father and his two perverted senseis Kakashi and Jiraiya. Naruto looked down at Tsunade to see she was fast asleep on his shoulder, slightly cuddling his arm. He smiled, even though he hadn't told the exact truth. It was all based on the truth well of what he knew anyway, but the important thing for him was that it felt better to just tell someone. Naruto stayed there with Tsunade, who slept on his arm all the way through her shift, but Naruto didn't mind. However, the presence of another chakra signature made Naruto turn around. Orochimaru walked over to Naruto and nodded. "It's my turn now, Naruto, you just go get some sleep," Orochimaru said, getting a small smile from Naruto. "Hi, thanks," Naruto said, picking Tsunade up and dropping to the floor. Walking into Tsunade's tent, Naruto placed Tsunade down. He was about to move, but was stopped as he realized Tsunade had not let go of his arm. After trying several times to free himself, Naruto sighed. "You're going to kill me in the morning, Tsunade-chan," Naruto said, laying down next to her, to which immediately Tsunade rested her head on his shoulder. Naruto was running away, cuts and bruises all over his body. He was at least 17 and wore an orange samurai outfit, a height with twin spikes that framed his face and hung his bangs. However, half of the outfit was destroyed, revealing Naruto's muscular form. Half of his plain black bottoms were torn off, revealing a bloody knee. His white bandages around his ankles were bloody as well. "Stop hiding, you coward," Naruto shouted with his sword out while channeling Raiden chakra to it. The sudden sound of something moving underground made Naruto jump in the air, his sharingan blazing to life. "Who said I was hiding?" a voice said as Naruto was suddenly impaled by several wooden spikes that came from behind. As Naruto's eyes began to turn lifeless, he saw the wooden spikes that were coming from underground approach him. This was it, he had traveled back in time to save the world, yet here he was killed before he could even do it. Smiling at the thought of meeting his parents again and all of his friends, Naruto waited for his doom. Naruto quickly sat up, sweating buckets, wiping one hand over his eyes. Naruto laid his head back onto the pillow. What was that? It felt so real, Naruto thought, rubbing the places the spikes had impaled him in his dream. "Maybe it showed you your future. It's not unheard of that people have dreamt their death," the Kyuubi said. "Maybe, but who had Mountain?" Naruto thought. "Don't know. The last person who used Mountain was that Senju person. Speaking of Senju, I would run if I was you," the Kyuubi said, going back to sleep, leaving a very confused Naruto. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and immediately paling as there sitting up in front of him was Tsunade. "What are you doing in my bed, Naruto?" she said, the last part growling, making Naruto gulp. Naruto began to tell her how she had fallen asleep on his arm and how she won't let go. Needless to say, by the end, Tsunade was blushing heavily. "Thank you for taking my watch. I must have been too tired," Tsunade said, still blushing over the fact she had been incredibly clingy. Naruto was about to respond but was interrupted by the sound of Madara. "Naruto, Tsunade, get up. I don't care what you two are doing, but we need to leave," Madara said, chuckling at the end. Tsunade blushed again. While Naruto was promising himself Madara was going to feel a lot of pain. After they had packed up everything they had started heading towards the village they had been assigned to protect. Naruto couldn't help but shake his head when he heard Jiraiya ask Tsunade if they did it, to which he got a punch in the back of the head. As they made it to the path leading to the village the smell of smoke made them all look up and through the trees they could see the village was under attack. Jumping high into the air they all landed in the center of the village. Looking around they could all see broken down doors, smashed windows, dead bodies on the floor and houses on fire. Working fast Naruto saw a large group of bandits closing in on two helpless children running at speed. Only Jounin level ninjas could keep up with Naruto unsheathed his sword and cut the bandits' head off surprising the other three. Madara also jumped into action going through hand seals. Mangekyou no Jutsu Great Fire Majestic Removal Technique Madara shouted, releasing a large wall of fire killing off another large section of bandits. Tsunade, Orochimaru and Jiraiya were all beginning to shake in fear they had never killed anyone. They were all brought out of their thoughts when they saw three bandits run at them, swords drawn preparing to land a killing blow. Before they could blink however Naruto cut through them like they were butter. Looking towards the three shaking genin Naruto shook his head. "Come on, we need to help the villagers, think about it later," Naruto shouted getting slow nods. Orochimaru charged at one of the bandits' kunai out as the bandit turned around his eyes widened when he felt Orochimaru's kunai slice through his throat, killing him instantly. Tsunade also ran ahead kicking and punching as many bandits as she could. She turned however and kicked one of the bandits, sending him flying into a piece of wood that was sticking out. The bandit was immediately impaled. Tsunade went wide-eyed at the thought of killing the man, however seeing another bunch of villagers being attacked by some bandits she ran at them. Jiraiya had also been punching and kicking the bandits, however he froze when he saw a bandit go to strike him with a sword. Luckily he was saved by Naruto who parried the guy's sword. Turning to Jiraiya, Naruto saw the frightened expression and sighed. "Kill him," Jiraiya, Naruto said seriously and chucking a kunai at Jiraiya's feet. Jiraiya slowly picked the kunai up and nodded. The bandit saw Jiraiya's state and laughed. "Some pint-sized run thinks he can kill me," the man said running past Naruto straight towards Jiraiya. Without thinking Jiraiya launched forward and stabbed the kunai in the man's chest. Jiraiya began shaking at the sight but was quickly stopped by Naruto, who placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You had to, Jiraiya, it was you or him, this way you have saved many more people," Naruto said sadly. Jiraiya stood up and nodded, fire burning in his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly running towards another bandit. Tsunade, Orochimaru and Jiraiya had been fighting a large section of bandits but were starting to become tired. They must have been at least 300 bandits, they were now down to 40 maximum. Naruto and Madara had been split up from them and now it looked like the three were fighting an uphill battle. The three were about to stand up but were stopped by the presence of Naruto and Madara. Naruto's sharingan eyes blazed to life, angrily glaring at the large number of bandits in front of him. "You will not hurt my friends," Naruto shouted, his eyes turning to his mangekyou form, and suddenly the ground began to levitate from underneath the bandits and the air near them all began to twist. Just imagine what Kakashi did to Deidara but on a way larger scale. "What the hell?" one of the bandits shouted as his body was beginning to get crushed. For the next minute the sounds of screaming could be heard as Naruto began to crush and then warp all the bandits away courtesy of Kamui. Madara smiled as it appeared Naruto had unlocked yet another mangekyou technique. Even if he did put way too much chakra into it, he was suddenly brought out of his thoughts when he saw Naruto collapse. "Naruto!" Tsunade shouted, running over to Naruto, closely followed by Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Knowing a little bit of medical ninjutsu, Tsunade began roaming her hands over Naruto's chest. "He'll be alright, he just added too much chakra to his last attack," Madara said, picking up Naruto and walking to where the surviving villagers were, closely followed by the three genin. "I've got a feeling that won't be the last set of bandits that attack this village. At least Naruto unlocked another mangekyou sharingan technique. I wonder what he'll unlock next." Chapter 9. Currently Team 7 and Madara were all sat round the bed Naruto was laying on after the skirmish with the bandits. They had brought Naruto to the small hospital located in the part of the village that wasn't attacked. "Madara-sama, is Naruto going to be alright?" Tsunade asked as she moved the bangs out of the sleeping Naruto's eyes. Madara watched Tsunade's actions. It was obvious she had gained a crush on his student. He smiled inwardly. Yes, this was definitely something Naruto was going to get teased about. "Yes, Naruto will be up soon, he is just suffering from chakra exhaustion. Now if you excuse me, I have to talk to the head of this village," Madara said, walking out of the room, leaving the three genin. Tsunade smiled slightly and looked down at the sleeping body. He was bandaged all over his chest. He also had a bandage around his forehead. His wounds were worse than she had first thought, but once she had gotten him to the hospital she had bandaged him up, cleaning all his wounds. He was healing relatively faster than he should have been, but she looked past it as she was more grateful he was going to be alright. "So did either of you kill anyone out there?" Jiraiya asked sadly. Both Tsunade and Orochimaru both looked at the ground in shame, even though Madara had told them that killing the bandits was for the greater good and they had saved more lives by killing them, but they still felt sick at the thought of killing someone. "Yes," Tsunade said regretfully, while Orochimaru just nodded. Jiraiya looked at them uncertain what to say. Naruto had helped him get past his actions, yet he didn't know whether his teammates were suffering. Deciding to let drop the issue, Jiraiya turned to Orochimaru. Hey, Orochimaru, team want to train? Jiraiya said, knowing that training was one of the few things that would get him to go back to his usual self. Yeah, Jiraiya, sure, Orochimaru said, standing up and putting a hand on Tsunade's shoulder, then walking out of the door with Jiraiya. Tsunade watched as her teammates left. As soon as she saw the two leave, she gazed back at the sleeping blonde and smiled. He looked so peaceful laying there. Naruto's mindscape. Inside Naruto's mind, the mighty Kyuubi was gazing over the body of its container. Even though he had the sharingan, not once had he tried to use the eyes to control him. Over the years, and being in Naruto's body, he had seen everything. From his horrible childhood that was filled with hatred and loneliness, the young blonde had always overcome the hatred of the villagers. Even when he had saved the village from pain, there was still those who would mutter demon when he walked past. Even though Naruto never showed any outward sign of pain, the word stung worse than anything. Yet after all this, the boy had still forgiven him. Granted, it wasn't his fault that he had attacked the village guided under the control of the sharingan, the very exact bloodline the villagers had constantly praised. The important part to the Kyuubi was that Naruto never hated him. He had even fought the Sage of the Six Paths, a battle that no mortal could win. Yet somehow Naruto had fought for control over his mind and won. It was that moment that both the Sage and the Kyuubi knew Naruto was special. Maybe the time had come for him to open up to a human. Every other human had either used him for their own gain or had just locked him up, yet Naruto had taken the time to talk to him and make his time sealed entertaining. Even though he had given Naruto all of his chakra except the part that had kept the Kyuubi alive and also the part that had helped Naruto heal. Now, however, was the time for the mighty nine-tailed fox to give Naruto something he had never given anyone before. He'd wake up, the Kyuubi said, channeling a lot of chakra into Naruto's body, immediately healing any wound he had. The Kyuubi watched as Naruto slowly opened his eyes. It was amusing to see the spiky-haired blonde groan about being woken up. Slowly Naruto picked up on his surroundings and looked at the Kyuubi and smiled. Hey Kyuubi, how's it going? Naruto said, making the Kyuubi sweat drop. Only Naruto would do something like this. It's Kurama, Kurama said, making Naruto look at him. Naruto said. Kurama sighed. Even though Naruto was smarter, he could still be an idiot. My name, it's Kurama. Naruto stood wide-eyed. The Nine Tails had given him his name, smirking slightly as he stood up. Really, you have a name? How come you don't tell people? Naruto asked. Of course I have a name, idiot. It's just I only tell those who are worthy to know my name, Kurama asked, groaning when he saw Naruto's grin. So you think I'm worthy? Naruto said. He knew that the now named Kurama was trying to open up to a human. Shut up. Besides, should you be waking up now? Your team are worried about you, Kurama said, annoyed that his container had gotten the best of him. Oh right, thanks Kurama-chan, Naruto said while laughing, knowing this was going to make the fox angry. I'll get you back for that brat, Kurama said to himself as he watched Naruto fade out of his mind. However, unknown to Naruto, Kurama liked arguing. It showed him that Naruto did not fear him and had saw him more of a friend. Back in the hospital, Naruto groaned as the light from the window shot into his eyes. Sitting up, Naruto looked towards the window, unaware of the other occupier in the room. Scratching his head, Naruto felt the bandages applied on him. He looked down, checking the bandages wrapped around his chest. He frowned at the thought. Those were not normal bandit, they were trained ninja, which means this is not a C-rank mission. But who would hire this many ninja for one attack? Oh man, why do I always get these type missions? Well, at least I learned Kamui, but it's still nowhere near Madara's. Naruto though, as he rubbed his chest. Suddenly Naruto found himself crushed into an enormous hug by Tsunade. Gasping for air, Naruto looked down at the blonde-haired girl and smiled. Only Tsunade would be this kind. The air, Naruto managed to gasp out as he tried to stop himself from passing out. Sorry Naruto-kun, Tsunade said as she released Naruto from the hug and scratched the back of her head sheepishly. Strangely enough, she had picked up this habit from Naruto. How long have I been out? Naruto asked while removing the bandages around his head and body. Tsunade blushed when Naruto had removed all of the bandages from his body, revealing his well-toned body. You've been out for 1 day. I am surprised that you have healed so fast though. Injuries like yours would have put anyone else out for about a week, Tsunade said, placing her hands over Naruto's chest and making them glow. She was doing was last checkup to see if all of Naruto's organs were okay. It seems you're all better, Tsunade said, smiling. She was shocked, however, when she saw Naruto jump out of his bed and reach the scroll that was on the table next to his bed. The benefits of Fuinjutsu, Naruto mused as he pulled out a plain white robe that was tied together by a black belt, black bottoms, black sandals and black gloves. As Naruto looked at his clothes, he remembered he was not alone, looking towards Tsunade, who apparently was still in a trance over the fact Naruto was able to jump out of his bed. Blushing slightly, Naruto scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. That Tsunade-chan, I kind of have to get dressed, Naruto said, snapping the blonde Senju out of her thoughts. Shaking her head, Tsunade immediately blushed tomato red. Yes, of course, Tsunade said, walking out of the room, leaving for Naruto to get dressed. Village leaders building. Madara was walking through the half-destroyed village. He looked at the workers who were quickly repairing the buildings and any other damages on the village. Something's not right, bandits should not be able to do that much damage. Even though I had no trouble with any of them, they were definitely not bandits, they were ninja chunin to jounin rank. But why were they disguised as bandits? I'm sure the head of the village will be able to shed some light on the matter. Madara thought as he entered the village head's house. It was a large oak-rounded oak building. It was one of the only few buildings that had no damage on it from the attack. As he walked to the main office, Madara couldn't help but sigh at most of the people. Just like Naruto, Madara was getting tired of people bowing to him all the time. However, he usually just left it since he knew they wouldn't stop. When he had reached the door, Madara knocked, and after a couple of seconds Madara heard a come in. Opening the door, Madara quickly scanned around the room. He saw the head of the village behind his desk with his head in his palms. Looking over to the window, he saw a young man. He had short black hair and wore a long black robe. Madara narrowed his eyes slightly when he saw the man smirk. "Ah, Madara-sama, I'm glad you came. We have wanted to talk to you for a while, but we understand that you had to look after your student," the man said. Madara looked at the man slightly confused. He knew who the head of the village was, yet he didn't know who this man was. "Excuse me, who are you?" Madara asked, walking forward further into the room. The man scowled slightly. "I am Nezumi Zuri, first assistant to Kairai-sama," Nezumi said smugly. Madara stared at him for a couple of seconds before looking at the man that was sat behind the desk. The man was an elderly man and had grey hair around the side of his head, however the top was completely bald. Madara could clearly see the man was under stress at the moment. Well, half of his village had been destroyed. Who could blame him? "My business is not with you, Nezumi-san. I suggest you leave as you do not hold any importance to this meeting," Madara said coldly. He didn't like Nezumi. The man was far too arrogant for his liking. A flash of anger appeared on Nezumi's face, but it quickly disappeared. "Of course, Madara-sama," Nezumi said, quickly making his way out of the room. As he walked past Madara, a slight smirk grew on his face. Madara stared at Kairai as Nezumi walked past. He didn't trust the man one bit. He was up to something. "Kairai-san, I would like to know why you sent this mission to Konohagakure and labeled it a C-class mission. Those bandits made this mission at least a A-class," Madara said threateningly. He added emphasis on the word bandit, hoping to get a reaction out Kairai. The elderly man looked towards Madara slightly confused. "Madara-sama, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't taking care of bandits classed as a C-rank mission?" Kairai asked as he looked up. His eyes showed he was tired. "Yes, under normal circumstances, however, those so-called bandits that attacked your village were far stronger than normal bandits. They knew ninja techniques. I believe they are hired ninjas disguised as bandits," Madara said as he leaned against the wall, his sharingan eyes following Kairai's movements. "Why? Who hire ninja to attack the village? I mean, we're just a small village. We don't even have many ninja," Kairai asked, his gaze looking over the folders on his table. "Yes, you are quite right. However, this village is also a part of the Fire Country and also an extension of Konoha. Supplies are transported to here then to Konoha, am I correct?" Madara asked. Kairai stood up and walked towards the window. "Yes, we collect supples that are to be given to Konoha," Kairai said, going into deep thought. Madara also went into thinking. This situation was indeed troubling. The action of attacking a village that is connected to Konoha could lead to war. "Well, whatever the case, we must find the person who hired the ninjas if we are to put a stop to this," Madara said, walking out of the room, leaving a very tired Kairai. Hospital. Naruto looked at himself in the mirror as he finished putting his clothes. He smiled as the clothes fitted perfectly. "Thank God these clothes fit. I'm glad I decided to get rid of all the orange. Looking at these clothes, I wonder why I was so taken in by the color. Maybe it's because of Kurama, or it might be the fact it was the only color I could get." As a kid, Naruto frowned at the last thought. His old orange outfit was a real standout. It was one of the reason he believed the Chopiners sold him it. Since they couldn't kill him, they probably hoped that he would die by sticking out enough some enemy ninja would attack him. He was brought out of his thoughts by the sound of knocking on the door. "Naruto, would you hurry up? What are you doing in there?" Swan ranted from the other side of the door. Naruto sighed as he wrapped his sword around his waist and walked over to the door. When he opened the door, he found a very annoyed-looking Tsunade. "Hey Swan-chan, I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long," Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Tsunade gained a tick mark above her eyebrow, growling slightly. Swan looked Naruto in the eye. "You're lucky I'm not in the mood to hit anyone, Naruto-kun," Tsunade said, turning around and walking off, leaving a stunned Naruto. "Are you coming or what?" Tsunade said as she continued to walk away. Sighing again, Naruto began to follow her. "Man, she's so troublesome. I'm turning into Shikamaru," Naruto thought as he caught up to Tsunade. But Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Both Jiraiya and Orochimaru walked around the village looking at sight. What they both found made them both feel sick. There was people left out in the streets using their clothes as shelter since their houses had been destroyed. As they walked into a large clear opening, both Jiraiya and Orochimaru smirked and got into a fighting stance. "You're going down," Team Jiraiya said, leaping towards smirked and also leaped towards Jiraiya. "Bukuku will see," Orochimaru said, pulling his leg back hoping to land a kick on Jiraiya's chin. He was surprised however, when he saw Jiraiya stop his leg by holding the top of his knee with both hands. Jiraiya span in midair and attempted to land an axe kick on Orochimaru, but was unsuccessful as Orochimaru caught his foot with both hands and spun him around several times before letting him go. "He's getting better," Orochimaru said to himself as he saw Jiraiya fly across the field and hit the floor. Standing up, Jiraiya wiped the dirt off his clothes and ran towards Orochimaru again. Orochimaru smiled as he saw Jiraiya run towards him. Dashing forward, Orochimaru tried to sweep Jiraiya's legs from underneath him. His eyes widened when he saw Jiraiya jump over his legs and send a kick to his chin, causing Orochimaru to fly back. "Ah, take that, team," Jiraiya said while smiling. Orochimaru stood up and wiped the blood off his bottom lip. "That was good, Jiraiya, I'm surprised you actually hit me," Orochimaru said while walking towards Jiraiya. Even though they were both competitive, they both knew they could not properly spar here since they were on a mission and they didn't want to be so weakened that they couldn't defend the villager themselves. "I think we should stop, Jiraiya, we can't go all out like we usually do, besides I'd hate to see what Tsunade would do if she caught us fighting again," Orochimaru said, making Jiraiya shiver. "Ah, you're right, I don't feel like being a punching bag anytime soon," Jiraiya said sitting down next to Orochimaru. "Who doesn't feel like being a punching bag, a voice said, making both Jiraiya and Orochimaru turn pale. Well, Orochimaru stayed the same, but his face showed extreme fear. As they turned their heads slowly, both Orochimaru and Jiraiya gulped as Tsunade was showing her all too friendly smile, and behind her was Naruto, who was grinning at the pair. "It's good to see you up again, Naruto," Orochimaru said, breaking him out of his and Jiraiya's fear. "Ah, thanks, I was getting sick of just laying around," Naruto said as he walked towards. He smiled as he saw the dirt patched on their clothes. "Couldn't help yourselves, eh?" Naruto said, snickering at their reaction. "Naruto?" Orochimaru asked. He had something on his mind for a while now and was curious to know. "Yeah," Naruto replied. He could tell Orochimaru was anxious about something. "What was that move you used to kill those bandits?" Orochimaru asked. Naruto's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "It was Kamui, a technique from the sharingan. It warps objects, or in this case people, to another dimension. But once I completely master it, I'll be able to teleport and let objects phase through me like Madara-sensei does," Naruto said happily, but inside he was cursing Orochimaru due to his curiosity. "Please don't obsess over the sharingan, Orochimaru, I'd hate to have to put you down," Naruto thought as he looked at Orochimaru for a few seconds. The sudden change in air made Naruto and the other three genin turn around. The air started to spiral, and out of it appeared Madara. Naruto smiled at his sensei's appearance while Tsunade, Jiraiya and Orochimaru were all fascinated over Madara's technique. Madara looked at the four, his lips twitched into a smile nearly when he saw Naruto up. He was at first angry when he had seen his student injured by multiple chest wounds, however he knew the boy would heal, so let it go. "It's good to see you up, Naruto, I was going to drag you out of your bed if you had stayed in there any longer," Madara said, causing Naruto scoff. "Please, as if you could," Naruto said as both he and Madara glared at each other. The three genin shuffled uncomfortably. After a couple of seconds both Naruto and Madara smiled, which soon followed to full-blown laughter. "Ahaha, you brat, you're lucky I'm not in the mood to kill you," Madara said, chuckling slightly. "You know, I'm not sure whether you're being serious or not, but I will Kamui your ass if I have to," Naruto said, activating his mangekyou. Madara smiled but walked over towards the four genin and sighed. Seeing him sigh, Naruto knew something was up. Madara was barely ever like this. "Alright you four, I'm going to be honest, I believe this mission is a trap," Madara said, making all the genins except Naruto's eyes widen. A trap? What do you mean?" Madara-sama, Jiraiya asked, confused. "I mean, I believe we were set up. Those bandits we versed were not normal bandits, in fact they were trained ninja," Madara said, making their eyes widen even further. "I thought so," Naruto said, making Madara raise his eyebrows. "What do you mean, Naruto?" Madara asked. "Well, thinking about it, the attack was obviously planned. They knew where the weak spots in the village were so they could easily get in, and I also believed that they were ninja, so that leads me to my theory. There is a traitor in the village and he hired us hoping to get a easy genin team to be killed off," Naruto said, making Madara's eyes widen and the other three look at him strangely. "Don't you think you're overthinking it? I mean, that's borderline paranoid right there," Jiraiya said truthfully. He wanted the mission to end as fast as he could, but with this theory out, it would mean they had bit off more than they could chew. "No, I believe Naruto might be onto something here. Also, I have an idea on who the traitor is," Madara said. "Ah, can we just go beat him up then?" Tsunade asked hopefully. "I'm afraid not, without any proof it will look like we are attacking an innocent man," Madara said, getting a groan from the four. Elsewhere, Nezumi was walking through a tunnel on the outskirts of Fire Country. His pace was slightly faster than normal. Reaching the end of the tunnel, Nezumi noticed a large door. Noticing he was at the right door, Nezumi knocked. "Come in," a deep voice said from the other side. Nezumi opened the door. Walking into the room, he immediately spotted three figures standing in front of a large desk. There was a shadow covering the three faces. "Ah, Nezumi, what can I do for you?" A voice in the shadows behind the desk said. Nezumi could feel the power radiating off the voice. "What do you mean, what can I do for you?" You promised me Kairai would be dead, perhaps I should take my business to someone more capable. Nezumi was stopped suddenly as two thick wooden branches came out of the shadow and picked him up by his neck. You dare question me? I did everything you asked for. I sent a large number of my men to attack your puny village, it's not my fault, you hired a strong Konoha team, the voice in the shadows said. Didn't he think THW would send Madara? Uchiha said. He was suddenly dropped by the wooden branches, he immediately started gasping for air. Uchiha Madara, you say? There's quite a high bounty for his head, and there is something I want from him anyway. However, at my current state, I would most likely lose, I am still not fully healed since my last fight, however you three should be enough to take care of Madara and his brats, the voice said, getting 3 nods from the other figures. You hear that? Yaba, looks like we'll be having some fun after all, one of them said, getting a chuckle from another. Yeah, we've been stuck in here far too long, let's just hope our skills haven't dulled, Yaba said as he came out of the shadow. The man was average height, he had long red hair and a scar going vertically across his cheek, he wore a plain white top and black pants, but the most noticeable thing was the giant katana on his back. You really shouldn't underestimate your opponents, the tallest of the 3 said, walking out of the shadow. He had short blonde hair, hazel eyes, he had a large trench coat on and black anbu bottoms. Unlike the rest, he was wearing combat boots like Yaba. He had a giant katana on his back. Oh come on Aniki, Q was right, I mean it will be fun, Yaba said, pointing to the final figure. The figure walked out of the shadows and showed a giant scar that went all the way across his face. He wore a brown robe and had silver hair with yellow eyes like the other 2. He also held a giant katana. So it's settled, the Totono brothers will help you, Nezumi. Don't worry, these 3 together should be able to take Madara. He has grown old and weak in his age, soon he will be nothing, but it has been, the voice said, making Nezumi nod and bow. Thank you, Nezumi continued. You don't need to know my name, besides it's safer that way, the voice said, making Nezumi nod and leave the room. The 3 figures turned back to the man behind the desk. The 2 smaller swordsmen smirked while the taller one was bearing a frown. Abakiwa, you may leave, I need to talk to your brother, the man said, getting nods from the 2 smaller men. After both of them left, there was a heavy tension in the air. I have a feeling this is a suicide trip, the blonde-haired man said, a hint of venom in his voice. Fukuku Wairai-kun, what makes you think that? You and your brothers have been nothing but useful to me in my quest, the man said, standing up, letting a little light shine on his face, showing one of his green and red eyes before disappearing into the ground. Damn you, we should never have signed up for this. Well, as long as I have my brothers with me I'll be alright, Rai said, shunning out of the room. But the Konoha team were in the same open field they had been in since they had talked about the situation they were in. They had been there 2 days, they had begun to train since they couldn't really leave since the moment they left the village, would probably be attacked again. No, they couldn't leave until they had gotten to the bottom of this. Right now Naruto could be seen practicing Kamui. The technique was exhausting, it was the same as Susanoo. They took a lot of chakra to perform, but after each use it got easier. Naruto was still frustrated with his progress with the Mangekyou's last technique, Amaterasu. He was able to create a little flame, however, it was nothing compared to what he had seen Sasuke and Itachi do. He was also frustrated with the progress he was having with the rinnegan. He could activate it and perform the Shinra Tensei technique. He had tried to use the other techniques he had seen Nagato use, but he was unable. He knew that he had to be patient, but he had to be strong enough to save the world this time, and also to fulfill a promise to Tsunade and avenge her grandfather by killing Kakuzu. Turning his attention towards his other teammates, he smiled at their training. Jiraiya was sat at the top of a tree with his legs crossed. He was completely still. Naruto smiled. He knew exactly what Jiraiya was doing. He was years away from completing the training, however he was getting there. Naruto then looked towards Orochimaru. He would be lying if he said Orochimaru wasn't a genius. He picked up things almost automatically. He had told Naruto he had planned to find out his chakra affinity as soon as he got back to Konoha so he could learn cool jutsus. Naruto was a little taken back but never showed it, so he just told Orochimaru that knowing loads of jutsus was good and all, but that was not what it meant to be a ninja. Looking towards Tsunade, Naruto smiled again. She was practicing her medical jutsus on the villagers that were hurt. She was really becoming a fine medic. She had partially gained her strength, however she could not completely control her chakra to the point where it shattered boulders. Naruto, how is Amaterasu coming along? Madara shouted from across the field. He had noticed Naruto staring off looking at his teammates. He would be lying if he said he wasn't proud of Naruto. The boy had so much potential. The boy would soon catch up to him if he wasn't careful. Madara knew he was far past his prime. His body wouldn't move like it used to. He was still fast, but compared to his youth, he was nothing. His hair had started to turn gray. He had wrinkles on his face. His eyes, however, were the most difficult things to keep up. The strain the eternal Mangekyou Sharingan put on the body was almost unbearable. He had started to restrict the usage. Looking at Naruto trying to use another of the mangekyou techniques amazed him. He was 40 before he could even perform all the techniques, yet Naruto had somehow nearly done it in 7 years. All in all, Madara could safely say that Naruto was by far the most important person in his life, almost like a grandson figure. He smiled as soon as the thought passed. Well, it's getting better, but I still can't create a giant flame, yet Naruto answered truthfully. He had also begun trusting Madara. It was still hard to believe this was the same maniac from his timeline, but then again it wasn't really Madara. Well, wake me up when you make some progress, Madara said, jumping to the top of a tree and lying down, instantly falling asleep. Naruto sighed as deactivated his sharingan. Perhaps he was too tired to continue. The mangekyou techniques were far more exhausting than anything he had ever done. Sitting his head into the grass, Naruto slowly began to drift off. Bang! Naruto shot up. He turned his head towards the village gate. He noticed smoke and fire straight away. Running towards the area, Naruto noticed Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru missing. Feeling a presence behind him, Naruto started to unsheath his blade. He was stopped, however, when he heard Madara's voice. Naruto, it's just me. I have captured Nezumi, so he can't do anything. However, the monkey's brats ran towards the explosion. Hurry, let's go, Madara said, warping away, leaving Naruto to run. But Jiraiya, Tsunade, Orochimaru. Bang! Tsunade was running towards the gate with both Jiraiya and Orochimaru by the side of her. I think we should have waited for Naruto and Madara-sama, Orochimaru said as they continued running. Tsunade nodded while Jiraiya looked slightly confused. Why, if it's anything like last time we won't need them, Jiraiya said, getting a sigh from Orochimaru. No, Jiraiya, this won't be anything like last time, Orochimaru said as they stopped in front of the destroyed gate. The smoke covered everywhere. Slowly, however, 3 figures stepped out of the smoke. These must be Madara's brats, Yeba said, walking towards them unsheathing his sword. We don't have time for this, we have to finish them. I'm sorry, little ones, but your time has come, Rai said as his blonde hair waved in the wind. Unsheathing his sword faster than anyone could see, he rushed towards Tsunade. As he was about to land the final blow, his eyes widened. With Naruto jumped on top of another building. He was rushing as fast as he could. As he reached the last house before the gates, his eyes widened as he saw someone leaping towards Tsunade, intending to land a killing blow. Acting fast, he released his weights and unsheathed his sword and rushed towards them. Village gates. Everyone's eyes widened as they heard the sound of metal hitting metal, as there stood Naruto holding Rai's blade off with his own. Catching him off guard, Naruto swiped his leg and kicked him back towards his brothers. Rai's feet skidded off the ground. He never got knocked over, but there was power behind the kick. He looked up to see Naruto glaring at him with his azure eyes. Rai's eyes turned slightly to behind the 4. He smiled as he saw Madara appear. Uchiha Madara, I'm glad you have come. Now we can take you back to our master, Rai said, dashing off again, this time faster than Naruto could follow. Activating his sharingans, Naruto turned towards Madara and threw his Hiraishin trench knife. As Rai was about to hit Madara, he looked confused as he saw the man with his arms crossed, not even caring that he was about to die. However, the sight of a trench knife fly past his face caused him to stop. However, the yellow flash that came after caught him off guard as Naruto appeared from out of nowhere. Your fight is with me, Naruto said, getting into a stance. Rai sighed. He never enjoyed killing, however it was his job, and by God he was going to complete it. Very well, Yeba, Kyu, you take care of them 3, and I'll take care of Madara and this brat, Rai said as he also got into a stance. Madara-sensei, I'll take care of this, please protect the other 3, Naruto said seriously. He knew the man in front of him was good. The speed he showed was unbelievable. He was at least an A rank. Okay, Naruto, but don't die and remember what I taught you, Madara said, looking towards the other brothers. Hear that, Yeba? We get to kill 3 brats and an old relic. This should be fun, Kyu said happily as he and Yeba leaped towards the 4. Naruto took a side glance and let the breath he had been holding out, turning his attention back to the man in front of him. Naruto sighed. Naruto, was it? Rai asked, getting a nod from the blonde. I'm sorry, but this is the end for you, Rai said, running towards Naruto. We'll see, Naruto replied, also running towards Rai. Both fighters jumped at the same time and swiped, hoping to land a hit. They were both surprised when neither attack had caused any damage to each other, landing in a crouch position. Looks like you're better than I thought, Rai said, stated as he stood up and turned around. Well, should we get serious, Naruto said, activating his mangekyou, surprising Rai. Definitely, Rai said, launching towards Naruto again. What if Naruto has Sharingan, Rinnegan and Eternal Mangekyou Sharingan? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.